Flash Film in Peril, Tales from the Loop debuts, and the Duck Doom saga continues. All of this and more tonight on the Real Super Geeks.
We almost didn't do the enemy opener.
Not the fake Super Geeks, folks. The real ones, which is us. Welcome to our latest episode. Despite the fact that there's a world pandemic, we have a lot to talk about this week. It started out slow, but somehow ballooned to 18 topics. We'll see if we can get through all of them. But before we do, let's check in with the Super Geeks, starting with our recurring guest host, Jason Kovalik, who's discovered, what was the streaming app you were testing out all week, Jason?
Is it Duckstream or whatever it's called?
It's not Duckstream. You're getting that mixed up with Sean's thing.
Settle down there, Flavortown.
Flavortown.
StreamYard. I've been playing around with StreamYard.
That's it. It was StreamYard. Yes, you sounded good. You looked good. I also see you've bleached your hair. What a man. What a mighty good man. Well, good to see you. Thanks for joining us again, Jason. And let's zoom over to the state of Arkansas and our official mascot, Index, otherwise known as Sun Seal. Son, how are you this week?
I've seen better days.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Star of many plays.
It's been a week, considering my mother works in a nursing home.
I remember you said
and
that.
If you're going to see the worst of the nursing and medical industry, it's going to be in a nursing home.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
My mother, the nursing home itself bought a bunch of disposable use face masks, and then has the audacity to tell a whole bunch of nurses in the medical industry, you're just going to have to wash them and reuse them.
That's happening in a lot of places too. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's happening a lot. I know a friend of mine whose wife works for medical cleaners at one of the hospitals, and they actually tried telling her that since she was a contract employee that she couldn't wear the hospital protective gear, and they got in trouble for that because
that's happening in other places too. Yeah. Son, is Arkansas still one of the few states that has refused to implement a stay-at-home order?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's crazy town. Unfortunately, they're mostly red states and mostly in the South. Ouch.
No, it's the Midwest.
No, it's the South, dude. I mean, part of it goes into the Midwest, but the southern states are pretty bad about it. And it's gotten a little better finally with Florida, and I think Alabama finally issued orders, but it took a while. Mississippi, I think, is still resisting it, as is Arkansas. Anyway, but we'll talk about other coronavirus news later on. Let's check in next with the eyebrows of doom. Ross Bullock, how are you this week?
The state of Iowa is as lovely as ever. We also have not instituted a stay-at-home order yet.
One of them too.
But with everything shut down as it is, it might as well be.
Mm-hmm.
So far, so good. The little one has not taxed me too greatly so far.
Go ahead.
And I managed to find a variety of pack that actually has a porter in it, so I'm actually pretty good.
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you for the update on that. We were all wondering on your beer consumption.
Well, actually, I'm on liquor tonight, as I've got some Captain Morgan
I hear
Black
it's
Spice
quicker.
rum.
You ear?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Which brings us to our next Super Geek to check in with from the great state of Las Vegas. I know you're not state, but it is a state of mind.
Might as well be.
Might as well be. Sean O'Halloran, the voice of doom. How are you doing, Sean?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Powering through this. My kids are really starting to get on my fucking nerves. But
what? You have the best kids on the planet. I've seen
I
that.
know, but they're trying to murder each other. One tried to hit me with a chair yesterday. It was fun.
Christ.
Yeah.
Which one? I got to know which one.
That was Harrison.
Of course it was Harrison.
Of course, it was Harrison.
I love it. You guys haven't lived until you've seen Harrison made up as Mr. Spock. He's
he just owns the role. He's so method.
he's so method. Like he's so into this being Mr. Spock. Yeah, he was great. Okay, and from my recovering home state of Colorado, Travis Linton. How are you doing, Travis? How are things on the Pee Wee Herman Facebook page? Please Playhouse Facebook page.
I'm actually in a pretty good mood, actually, and as far as the group is concerned, it's actually been pretty quiet. Not too many people are asking about it, which I'm actually kind of thankful about, because those those questions in like the queue of like, when is the group name getting changed back, or what's with the group name, have been like just been on my nerves. But I'm actually in a pretty good mood right now. My parents just reached their 32nd year of marriage. So
excellent.
Congratulations to them.
And my grandmother of 96 who was recovering in the hospital from a blood clot, has been discharged and is back home with them. So very happy news there. And other than that, it's just been a pretty good week. It's been pretty quick and not too much has been going on. So,
well, my mother fell and could not get up, but luckily my sister and brother-in-law were there. She didn't break anything, but sorry to hear that, Mom. All right, let's go to our stalwart producer, Justin Burton. How are you surviving the worldwide pandemic?
Bored. Very, very bored.
Great. I suppose there are worse ways to get through it.
Well, that's better than last week when you wanted to strangle everybody in the complex.
Yes, that's an improvement.
That's an improvement, but you know, hey, it is what it is, I guess.
Okay.
I got time to do stuff like this.
Yeah, that's scarier than shit, actually, seeing you and your lore. It's like
especially since you and I just watched Counterpart. Yeah, it's scary as shit.
Your other. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. Your other.
Your other.
All right. Well, let's dive into the first of our topics. We'll check in with a couple other things. I think we got everyone in. Yes. So topic number one grows out of the ongoing pandemic, which amongst the, I guess, the silver linings around this is news that fans have done a frame-by-frame remake of Back to the Future 2 in 88 pieces, created under quarantine without violating any social distancing rules, from 300 people, 88 pieces, 9 countries. And they put it together in, I think, 2 weeks. And it is on YouTube right now. We have the link in our Trello. And you see two, if my sharing is working properly, you see two of those slices, both featuring, well, one is a DeLorean model being held by fingers, and that's chasing Biff, by the way, in some kind of a future car, in case you're wondering what that is. And of course, the one below is not a DeLorean. I think it's a Chevy, but it's driven by what's supposed to be the professor, and it's got a hoverboard, which is kind of cool, and it's getting rave reviews, the hoverboard scene. So anyway, definitely worth watching. I don't know if any of you got a chance to see it, but it is it's very entertaining. It's worth a watch.
I'm gonna guess what's going on here is that you've got all these different people that did this, and they all have their own style of doing it.
Correct.
Okay, this was done with Shrek. I don't know if people are aware of this.
I did not know that.
It's on the Blu-ray set. It's on one of the special features in the Blu-ray set, where you had animators and filmmakers that all contributed a little bit to the to remaking Shrek, and it's great. And I'm looking forward to the Back to the Future one. It's obviously the same theory at play here, but interestingly enough, I'm going to put dollars to donuts that there are no fan film producers from Lawrenceville, Georgia, involved in this project because it's completed.
And it is a full feature-length production.
Yeah. Okay.
It's called Project 88 because that's how many slices they divided the whole movie into,
Perfect.
and divvied up amongst the 300 people who produced their Project 88 Back to the Future 2, spelled T-O-O.
Nice.
Just so you know. But it's worth watching. My favorite part is the one with the DeLorean. It's hilarious to see the different versions of the DeLorean that each of these people did. My favorite one is the cardboard DeLorean.
Awesome.
Awesome. So
Great.
so
Can't
give it a
wait to
watch.
see
It'll be
that.
I think a fun way to pass some time during a worldwide pandemic.
Newgrounds did a couple projects like that over the last couple years, where they invite animators to remake. It was an episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog. They all take about 30 seconds to a minute long scenes,
Right.
and they remade the entire episode.
Wow.
That's roughly the idea. It's like there's an exact amount of time in the Shrek one too, the same thing and it's just all different takes on it. It's really quite clever. So I'm looking forward to this Back to the Future one, definitely.
Yes, some of the versions of the Professor are just spot on hilarious.
The
others
episode
are
was
just
called Freaky Fred. I'll add the link.
Of course I would. Yeah, do add it to the Trello for.
Hey, what you got there, Jason? Oh, look
Wait,
at
what was
that. It's a DeLorean, but it keep getting obscured by the background.
So as we move through tonight's show, I'm going to ask each of you who's displaying a cool Zoom background today, your choice of background, and justifying your choice. We'll start. I was going to start with you, Jason. And there you go. You restored it. So my guess is that is the Kelvinverse Enterprise Bridge. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And your reason behind this choice?
Because it pisses a lot of people off.
And yet it's beautiful.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I'm all about. You saw my post. That's what I like to hear.
I did see your post this week in which you said this is just a great excuse for me to be an asshole.
An even
I'm
bigger
normally an
asshole.
asshole.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Asshole.
Right. That's where I'm at.
Hey, I own 2 versions of each of those movies, so good on you. I love.
I own them too, actually. The one that I got, which is a Blu-ray / digital copy of the first movie, came with these cool metal comm badges from the film, which I love and actually used as my model for the Aximonitor logo. So
Yeah, I'm unashamedly an owner of multiple versions of all those films too. I got the standard and the 3D, and of course I got the box sets that came with the cool phasers, and the one that came with from Beyond that came with the Franklin.
Speaking of phasers, Jason,
I went to see that movie in the theaters 9 times.
It's a great movie. Beyond is so good. Beyond is really
actually, it's quite good. It's quite good.
Jayla is the
Beyond is
best thing to happen to Star Trek in a long time.
I can't argue with that. I'm not even. It's like I look back at the Abrams films, and and even if I didn't love Beyond so much, the one thing I can say about all 3 of those movies is that they literally saved the franchise.
It did. Because you got people that would normally never watch Star Trek out in the theaters to watch.
My wife likes those movies, and I told you she has absolutely zero interest in Star Trek.
And yet they fizzled, folks.
Yep.
And yet they fizzled. But I mean, on the bright side, yes, they reignited interest in Star Trek. We would not have Discovery and Picard and everything else that's coming our way if J.J. Abrams had not literally rebooted and by rebooting I mean kicked it in the butt. The franchise. So
I would disagree that they fizzled. The only reason that a 4th one hasn't been made is because of all of the goings on behind the scenes between CBS and Viacom.
That's not exactly true. It's fizzling because it didn't make enough money. That's
Right, and the
a lot of
issue-
money though.
that didn't have anything to. Well, I mean, you could argue, and I would agree with you, that the ongoing struggles between CBS and Paramount around merchandising that began with the first film were a problem. So yes, I think you're definitely right about that.
And then of course there was the producers lowballing Chris Pine's pay for the 4th movie that really delayed things.
About that.
And the whole thing with Quentin Tarantino really didn't help either.
Yeah, it just sort of came out of nowhere and then left out of nowhere. So
Well,
thanks a lot, Quentin.
Through
My
Tarantino.
feeling on I look at it like this: is I think at the end of the day, the Paramount's expectations for the Star Trek films was they were going to make the kind of money that big budget, because at the time, we're talking the Marvel movies, they were expecting that kind of return. Is what I believe. They were expecting that kind of return, which is why they sunk so much money into marketing, and why they weren't nearly as successful as they would have hoped they would have been. So that's my
Well, let's
feeling
talk
on
about that in a little bit when we get to our CBS Viacom topic for the week. I think we can delve into that a little bit more. But for now, speaking of J.J. Abrams, let's move to another J.J. Abrams topic, and that is the increasingly vocal people behind the production of Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi, who who are coming out publicly and talking about the very conscious efforts of Rian Johnson in trying to deconstruct Star Wars, and B, and of course the controversy that ensued from that, and B, J.J. Abrams' very conscious attempt to undo Rian Johnson's work in what resulted as what I believe was a narrative mess known as Rise of Skywalker. So how do we weigh in on this? Let's start with you, Sun Seal.
Is it? I think I said this last week. Is it bad that I actually enjoy the other guy's leaked script?
Oh, Colin Trevorrow's?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
wrong with
old
that.
preferred
director.
that script so much more, honestly.
I'm not sure it was better, honestly. I mean, it did some things better. I'm not sure. I haven't read the script. All I saw was the thing we featured last week, the claymation summary of it. And frankly, the claymation part was so entertaining that it's hard to tell if like an actual version of it would have been as entertaining. But, you probably paid more attention to the narrative part of it than I did. But yeah, you may be right.
I mean, I'll look when it comes to this kind of stuff. There's a reason John Boyega was so pissed that he left a script somewhere. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
speculative.
yeah.
Well,
in the height of
that's not speculative at all. John Boyega had wasted no time talking shit about the Rise of Skywalker when it was all done.
I'm
On
not
Twitter.
Like what? What did he say? Because I'm not familiar with him talking shit
Give us
about
some
it.
screenshots.
Yeah.
Let me go and find them.
you go find them. When you find them, let us know and just share them. Because
On the note of the
you need to know this, Sean. Go ahead,
I'm
Travis.
very curious.
on the note of the claymation, I didn't watch all those videos. I watched the last one, so I will back up what Sunseal is saying right here, and that there are some elements of this that I much preferred to Rise of Skywalker. And one of these elements was that, God, I still just kind of roll my eyes at the decision to make Rey a Palpatine. I thought that it was a very dumb narrative decision, and I actually really kind of thought that when Kylo reveals Rey's true lineage in this leaked script, I thought it was actually kind of charming. Like, your last name, I can't remember what he said it was, but it was very much like one of those, like, I like that, it shows that a nobody can be this special, that kind of thing. You don't need to be a Palpatine. You don't need to be a Skywalker. You don't need to be a Kenobi. You don't know who this person is, but she did something great, and I actually really liked that.
I did too. I'm one of those people who really liked the deconstruction that Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi. How do I've forgotten where each of us sort of stands on that. How many people liked Last Jedi?
It gets a thumbs up from me. I don't care what.
Thumbs down from Jason. Thumbs down from Justin. Where were you, Ross, on this?
I liked it. I liked it a
liked it?
lot.
I did too.
I really like it when stories try and surprise you, when they try and go in a different direction. And Star Wars isn't typically known for that. So I really enjoyed kind of stepping out of the box and trying to tell a different kind of story that Last Jedi did. And it's not like he didn't spell it out for everybody as the movie was going. This isn't going to end like you think. and the little teasers for the servant kids or the stable boys on Canto Bite.
Yeah.
I liked a lot about that movie. The Canto Bite itself was kind of
Yeah, it was sort of an unnecessary distraction, but
the
that
entire
part of it I really
yeah,
liked.
I've mixed feelings on it. I like it in general. The what I like, I it's very weird for me to discuss this. I'm all in favor of curmudgeon Luke. I've made this very clear. It's exactly what I would expect Luke Skywalker to be after 30 plus years. It's exactly how I expect him to be, and it's in the way the franchise always works out. The Star Wars world lore works out. It's poetic. It's how he should wind up. He basically wound up like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. So that made total sense to me. I love that part about it, and how, he was much more centered and really more in touch with the Force, because he just, it's all bullshit. It's just all bullshit. It's really what it came down to for him. So I love that part about it, and him trying to impart that upon Rey. It gave Rey much more depth as a character, I thought, than she had in the first film. The main issue I have was that entire distraction of that entire Canto Bite scene.
And you hated the porgs too, didn't you?
I
You hated the porgs. Admit it.
love the porgs. I
Oh,
love them so much.
that warms my heart.
And because here's the reason why I loved them when I first saw them, but when I found out that they were actually just CG overlaid puffins, it just made everything wonderful.
Yeah, I'm a big Puffin fan also.
Now, on the subject of the topic, here's what I got to say about that. Growing evidence that Abrams undid Last Jedi. No shit. Did you see the damn movie?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like the entire sequel trilogy is just a reaction. They wanted to bring back Star Wars for a new movie, for a new generation. They retread the first one. People complained that it was too much like the original, so they react, bring someone in to do something different.
Well, I think the news hook here.
So they brought J.J. Abrams back to make it more familiar again.
But the news,
come on.
But the news hook here is not that J.J. Abrams was undoing what Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi. It's that people who normally do not comment on that sort of thing are coming out and making public statements about it. In this case, the editors of the films, and that's extraordinary.
Okay.
I mean, I read those comments, and they're not nearly as sensational as those headlines would indicate. Their take on it.
Well, the substance of the comments,
sensational.
Yeah, the substance of the comments aren't unexpected, as Ross is talking about, but it's very, very rare for editors to make public comments on how the creative choices that were made on a film that they're paid to deliver an edit on.
Yeah, another issue there's the Canto Bite issue was, I think, the biggest flaw of the Last Jedi.
I'll give you that one.
Yeah. It took up too much of the movie and didn't really add anything to it, except for the guy that they were there to get winds up turning on them at the end anyway. So what was the point?
He wasn't even the guy they were there to get.
Yeah.
He was just a random thief that they were.
Yeah, he was a random who happened to be the guy who betrayed them. So
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I do disagree with a little bit here. The worst part about The Last Jedi was at the very end, the message of was almost like there's nothing worth fighting for.
I didn't get that.
Oh, I didn't get that at all. That's not what I came with at all.
When Rose saved Finn. And that whole diatribe there, what I got was, it's not worth fighting for.
I did not get that at all. In fact, I thought the whole point of the kids being inspired by the rebellion. I thought that was one of the strongest parts of an otherwise forgettable sequence in Canto Bite, and I felt bad that it didn't really pay off in Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you could argue it kind of did, but yeah, I mean, if it had paid off, and they could have done that. I mean, because it didn't undo anything. It didn't introduce anything like non-canonish. It was like this ray. Sorry about the use of the term ray, but this ray of hope and inspiration in a new generation that just in the next movie didn't really go anywhere.
the biggest downfall. It seems like the entire series was just reacting off of each other.
Yeah.
Way too much. Instead of
I
just trying
can't
to
really
make a
argue
decent
with
movie.
that, even though I love Rise of Skywalker.
There wasn't a plan either. There wasn't like a
Right.
you
It's
know.
clear that there was
Yeah.
no plan for these
Yeah.
films whatsoever.
Well, I mean, and isn't that what we've come to learn about J.J. Abrams? No plan
He
and
makes
Lost.
a big deal about mysteries and
Yeah.
great deep
Well,
plans that don't.
Sometimes
To J.J. Abrams'
Anywhere.
credit, when discussing
Plan.
Lost, J.J. Abrams was not involved with Lost beyond the pilot. So just let's be
He was
clear
still an
about that.
executive producer. He
In
had.
name, he has come right out and said that he had no involvement.
Well,
in
of course
the
he's saying
pilot.
it now.
No, this is years ago that he said.
Yeah, I know.
that.
He didn't have day-to-day stuff, but come on. You know, he watched the same show we all did.
Well, you're getting paid, you know.
Like-
so
sometimes I do like
Wasn't it-
his do
Travis
like-
first, then Jason.
like sometimes I do enjoy J.J. Abrams' like mystery approach to filmmaking. Like one of my favorite movies that he's ever done is Cloverfield. Like that's
Yes.
a great movie.
Yep,
There
that's a
is
great
like
movie.
there is like not a lot that is explained in that movie. You don't really know what exactly is going on unless you're watching all the bonus features of that movie, which I have. But like, I mean, like it's just like I don't need to watch the bonus features to enjoy what that movie is. Like it's
Right.
just
Cloverfield, yeah, because this is the thing about it. With J.J. Abrams has been trying to stylize himself after Steven Spielberg for his entire career.
Oh yeah,
And-
take a look
and-
at Super 8. It is almost a ripoff of E.T.
Yep, entirely. And it's with J.J. Abrams, it's always been less about the story and more about the adventure he takes you on. That's what pretty much what it comes down to. That's what Cloverfield is. Because
Yeah.
the Cloverfield story sucks. It's a shit story. It doesn't need to be good because that movie is a fucking ride. That movie
Yeah.
is so much fun that it doesn't matter. And that's exactly what he was going for with that, and that's why it works. Totally agree.
JJ
Great
is
flick.
an awful lot like Michael Bay. When he makes something that is
that hurts.
Hear me out before you react. Hear me out.
Okay.
When he makes something original that is his, it's awesome. It's incredible. Pain and Gain is one of my favorite movies. And that was a Michael Bay movie, surprisingly. There's almost no explosions. There's a few small action scenes here and there, but it was fantastic. And then you see what he did with Transformers and TNMT. J.J. Abrams is kind of the same way. When he does something that's an IP that isn't his own, it is exciting, but there's no substance to it. And then when he does something that's his own, like Super 8 and Cloverfield, it's great.
Well, you know what, though? I think that this really can be said about a lot of the talented directors out there right now. Because if we're talking about The Last Jedi, okay, and which is, I agree with Ross from the perspective of I love the fact that Rian Johnson tried to put his own stamp on it. I don't think it worked nearly as well as it could have, but I do love the fact that he really tried to make it his own. I love the fact that it's like, I love the fact, like he says, this whole notion of, guess what? Your parents are nobodies. I love that shit. I love the fact that Snoke gets whacked midway through the film, because who gives a fuck about Snoke?
Nobody cares about Snoke.
Exactly.
So true.
I love that. And there's things like that I just love in that film. But I think I do understand how it's problematic, and I do appreciate that. It is some of it is problematic for me. But then, have you seen Knives Out? Have you all seen
No.
Knives Out yet?
Oh yes, I have. Yes.
Holy shit, Rian Johnson.
Yeah, that's a very entertaining film.
What a great fucking movie that was. I just saw it the other night, and it's like, okay, but I knew this before, because like I said, he's responsible for the greatest episode in the history of the greatest TV show on television, on Ozymandias in Breaking Bad. So the guy's got talent, and I think a lot of times I'm starting to believe this, it being straddled with an IP, with a direction that a studio wants to go with it, that it's just not as good for some directors.
There is a reason, if you look at some of the big tentpole movies in the last decade that have, especially the ones that have failed, and there've been a lot of them, there's a reason why so many of them are helmed by first-time or second-time directors.
Mhm.
Usually who are very good independent directors and lured by the big money by studios that wanted to take advantage of their talent,
Right.
but also wanted to take advantage of the fact that they don't have enough power to change a
Make a
lot.
stake to
The
challenge them.
dark
Right.
universe.
Yep. Yep. I have
Indeed.
no doubt about that.
What?
Jason, I promised
Talk
you some
about
air.
Dead on Arrival.
Jason, I promised you airtime and forgot you, so your turn.
Yeah, we're past it. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean,
I'm sorry. You.
no, it's okay.
I'll give you a virtual hug.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic. This is speaking of tentpole movies,
And self-owns.
and what and
Self-owns.
oh, and self owns or self phones. So one of the big news items this week was the news that Flash, the DC extended universe, cinematic universe, that Ezra Miller, who played Flash in Justice League, was videotaped in a fight, a physical altercation with a woman who appears to have been an overexuberant fan who pissed him off in a bar in Reykjavik, Iceland. The video from that went viral, and now there's some serious concerns about whether or not he will actually be continuing to play his role in Fantastic Beasts and in the upcoming Flash feature film. And in fact, fans have already begun a change.org petition asking Warner Brothers to fire him, basically. So the details on the altercation are still a bit sketchy, but he has come out to say nothing about it. Where are we weighing in on this topic this week? Jason, you get to go first since I neglected you in the past.
I go back to Ezra should never have been cast as the Flash. DC DC really screwed up with the at the time when they were building the DCEU, you had strong properties that weren't I mean, you could argue the Flash is a primary DC property, but you had Arrow, you had Legends of Tomorrow was just starting to get going. You had this like synergy around these shows that they really could have just built on the DCEU on with the more tentpole characters, the big three: Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. But they didn't do that. They went and found their own, went their own direction, and they lost that synergy. And Ezra Miller just isn't Grant Gustin. Like, Grant Gustin to me is the Flash. Like you watch him, like he is the character personified. He does a really good job with it, even though the stories have kind of become kind of rinse and repeat. I get that, but still,
that's not his fault, though.
Yeah, it's not his fault. That's the writers and stuff. But I mean, as the Flash, as Barry Allen, I don't think there's DC Warner screwed up by not plugging that all in together. So,
other opinions, Sean. You looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, I'm positive he will be back in the role of the Flash, and because the simple fact that you said a change.org campaign has been started, which pretty much guarantees nothing will happen. So,
we'll see. I mean, Warner Brothers hasn't said anything. I think they're probably waiting to see whether the outrage builds to a big enough level to...
Here's the thing. This couldn't have happened at a better time for him, to be honest, because nobody gives a shit about this right now. Everybody's concerned about the plague, okay? So, it's kind of like... if you guys are familiar with the whole cheating scandal, baseball fans here I know are, the cheating scandal involving the Houston Astros stealing signs. I mean, there's a situation where the Mets hired Carlos Beltran as their manager before they knew about this. And Beltran was involved in this. And basically what it came down to, and I know this is what happened, is they said nothing about him having to leave or being fired from the team until it became a big deal in the media. That's when they mutually agreed to part ways. And it was an issue of, okay, we'll see if this just blows over or if it gets really jacked up. It got really jacked up really fucking quick, and that's when they let him go, and they had a guy waiting in the wings. And I think that probably Warner Brothers is waiting to see what happens with this.
Yeah.
If people really give a shit after 6 months, when the pandemic is over, if people remember anymore and they can just move on. If they can't, they'll cut them loose. No doubt.
Well, there's a complicated wrinkle here, I think, specifically about Ezra Miller, who came out a few years ago as non-binary and queer, and apparently, from what some of his friends have said in interviews, is that his gender dysphoria / depression around that led him into some pretty serious drug use, and that and in fact the eyewitness accounts of the incident in Iceland talked about how he appeared to be very high. And in fact, I just ran across this today, that his surprise cameo in Crisis on Infinite Earths was a very troubled last-minute addition to that maxi series on the CW. That if you look at his face in what they shot, you can see how dilated his pupils are in there, and that crew members anonymously have talked about just what a pain he was to work with, to get him to like even know his lines in what was a short cameo. So my concern for him really is around these other issues, and I just think it's always very sad when you have drug related issues that are centered on some deeper psychological issues that and you're watching this unfold like literally on a world stage, and it's
Right.
just it's a lot of pressure to carry. It doesn't justify what he did, obviously, but I think it says a lot about my concern I've always had about how younger people in Hollywood are not trained to handle
Sure.
stardom.
When I hear about drug incidents and whatnot, my sympathy kind of goes down. I'm gonna be honest. Like, sure, like the pressure of the job might be there, and the atmosphere might very much be full of this kind of thing. But when it comes to, I feel like this is on him. I feel like he should have just like. I'm going to sound very elementary school, drugs are bad and K kind of right here, but I mean, like, all you got to do is just say no, walk away.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I come from a family that I've got a father who's a child of an alcoholic. I have a mother who is an alcoholic. I have a father-in-law who was an alcoholic and took his own life because of that alcoholism that wound up destroying his life. And I've got a brother, my brother, who is an opiate addict and was a meth addict. Okay, so I have witnessed this and been heavily involved in all of this my entire life. And what we've come to learn about, substance abuse, substance addiction, is at the end of the day, it's like Carlos said, the issue really is the psychological issues underpinning this. And what you have here, and I always point this out to people, that the substance abuse problems are a symptom of the bigger issues, because it's in many ways self-medicating, because people don't know how to get help. They don't understand what's wrong with them.
They're just not well prepared for it. And for people like him, he was a child star. Right. And you see this happen in a lot of child stars who go on to have adult careers, is that no one prepares them for these pressures.
Yeah, and
their parents generally don't, their managers don't, because all these people make money off of them.
Yeah, this is fantasy land here. This is a fantasy world that this is not how normal people live, is what it comes down to. So when you've got all these issues on top of that, trying to deal with a situation, a lifestyle of this Hollywood lifestyle of entertainment, that he's not equipped for it. Period. And other people aren't too. We've seen that many times before. It's not a knock on him or anyone else. It's just, it's hard enough for people without these issues to deal with that. it's exponentially harder for people who have these underlying issues that often go unresolved.
Yeah,
Okay, let's
this
do
is
a
why
quick round. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Travis, and then we're going to do a quick round robin. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this is why I like you, Sean. You're always looking at a bigger picture.
I try. Yep, I try.
Yeah, he doesn't suck. Okay, let's do a quick round robin. How many of
Bill
you?
High praise.
All right. Should he stay or should he go? Ross, what do you think?
There's not enough information for me to say yes or no.
You're reserving judgment. Okay, Travis, how about you?
Well, I won't answer the question. I'll just say he should get help.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Son, where do you weigh in?
I honestly, I think he should probably go. When we this is a thing that keeps happening. Hollywood or other major entertainment industries. We see some big star put their hands on somebody and then nothing fucking happens. Like we saw this with that football dude and his girlfriend in the elevator.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When are the industries themselves going to start taking a responsibility that they should have?
I totally agree with you
Yep,
on that.
totally agree with
note.
that.
I think the industry takes zero responsibility. Their whole point is, hey, these kids have parents, these kids have managers, these kids have, we employ them for a movie. Why should we be the ones who? I think that's bullshit, but because it's endemic across the industry. But that's their point of view on this, is that there are people who should be working to prevent this more. And while that's not untrue, they are still playing a role in it. They enable it through
Totally.
the way that they handle these stars on set, in projects. So there's plenty of blame to go around here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also like to harken back quickly to remember back in the 90s, our friend, whose name just totally, Robert Downey Jr. He was a mess, remember?
Yep.
He was in
Absolutely.
as bad a mess as Ezra Miller is today.
Yep.
And had been for many more years. And he managed to battle back from that, which I think is amazing, astounding, and wonderful.
Yep,
But
it
there
really
were lots
is.
of people who were willing and ready to write him off. Like movies couldn't get insured if he was cast in them. And I'm not quite sure when that changed, but it did change, obviously. And he went on to kind of take possession of his life again. And I can only hope the same thing happens for Ezra Miller, because he's a very, very talented actor.
Robert Downey Jr.
Ezra
is-
Miller needs a wake-up call, and
No,
I'm
it's about
hoping-
hit. I'll tell you what it is, Justin. You're right. It is a wake up call. This is everyone needs to hit rock bottom is what it comes down to. Before it kills you is what it comes down to. If you listen to Robert Downey Jr., Carlos talks about how everyone had written him off. He wrote himself off. He did. And he finally, when he talks about it, he took responsibility, which is very, very difficult to do. Because a lot of times, as an addict, as someone with deeper psychological, you don't even know what to take responsibility for.
Right.
And he hit his rock bottom at one point and got himself the help he needed and was serious about it. Because, look, they can keep putting people into rehab over and over again, and it doesn't make a lick of difference. Because
if they don't want the help, they ain't going to do it.
That's exactly it. You have to be dedicated to
But
it and
if you-
acknowledging your own shortcomings.
You had
Ladies and
alcoholism
BoJack
in your family. I had it in my family, so I had to deal with a lot of the same issues you had to deal with, and I did. That's 100% it. You cannot force someone to get help if they refuse to do it. I mean, no matter what you do, they just won't do it.
Yeah,
Was Robert Downey Jr. getting handsy with people though?
Yeah, but that's more of in this case we're talking about. This is an outburst of rage, is what it comes down to.
It was pretty much
That's also a symptomatic response of the disease and of when you've got these unresolved issues and it's Freudian, but yeah, it all goes down to childhood, and it doesn't, and it's traumatic experiences in our lives.
But at some point you have to take responsibility.
You do, Jason. But the problem is, unfortunately, this is the downside: is that if you often don't know how to, is the problem. You don't even recognize that you have a problem that needs to take responsibility for. And it like I said with Robert Downey Jr., same type of thing. He hit his rock bottom, owned his shit, and he was able to move
but he wasn't choking people out, though. That's a big difference.
Well, I know it sounds like it, but really, it's not. It's not that much more. It's a step in it. It's not uncommon. Let's put it that way. That type of thing. It's not uncommon. These kind of outbursts of rage.
And it wasn't unprovoked. And I don't say that to justify what he did. So
of course not.
But it was an interpersonal altercation that in which he felt threatened, or by these fans who were demanding things of him. And, he basically said, let's take it outside. And he did. And then it happened, which, again, no excuse for that. But it didn't come out of nowhere.
It didn't happen in a vacuum. Yeah. And to use a Turner phrase, yeah, things can trigger it, is what happens, unfortunately. But it doesn't excuse the behavior, but you can see the causality is really what it comes down to.
You also have to recognize, even outside of addiction issues for normal people, you have this added extra cushion of being a celebrity. There's so many people willing to coddle you and say things aren't right.
That's very true.
Yeah,
that it further confuses the issue of addiction.
It's like Carlos, exactly what Carlos said. It's about the industry enabling, and that's exactly what happened. And it's not just unique to the world of Hollywood entertainment. Look, this has been an issue in sports forever. It's a huge issue in the NFL. It used to be a major issue in Major League Baseball, but in the 90s, they finally started figuring out that when we're going to sign these kids, especially when they were going down to Central and Latin America to recruit these kids at 14, 15, 16 years old, they figured out that it would probably be a good idea to mentor these kids and to keep an eye on them and to make sure they're doing everything the right way to keep themselves on track so that shit didn't happen. And you don't hear about these incidents with Major League Baseball players anymore. It's very, very rare that you hear about these types of things. And that's because Major League Baseball realized there was a fucking problem. It was going to cost them money. And I think at the end of the day, these industries, such as the NFL and such as the Hollywood industry, they're only going to do something when it really starts to hurt them financially, is what it
Or they
comes
create
down
a Cuban dictator.
What's that?
Or they create a Cuban dictator.
Hollywood? I'm so confused.
The Major League Baseball.
Because they didn't hire.
That's a bit of a myth. Because of Castro, Castro wasn't that good. That's
Okay, let's wind up our round robin here. Sean, should he stay or should he go?
I'm going to answer this and say that I think at this point, as I would for any human being, I'm more concerned about, as we're getting himself, the help he needs than anything else. I think that's my biggest issue.
Well dodged. Jason?
I think if you want this movie to get made, he's got to go.
Okay. And Justin?
You need to get help. If not, then I don't think you should be in this next movie.
I think the next movie is far enough out that I would not kick him out yet, contingent upon him getting actual real help, not just, I'm going to do rehab, but actually getting real help, because he's got some serious issues he needs to work through, and I wish him the best in that.
Yeah, my attitude, on this changed entirely when you gave us this information, because I had no idea about any of that until you brought it up. But it strikes a particular nerve with me, is what it comes down to. I have an understanding of it that's different from a lot of people. So.
Okay, well, let's move on, because we've got a lot of topics still to cover this evening. The next one is a review as we're catching up on all of the different things that are being released during these dark times when we're spending a lot of time at home. And that is the new series on Amazon Prime, Tales from the Loop. We've talked about this last couple of weeks. Finally, it arrived last week, and I think at about episode 4 or 5. And I know some of you have watched this as well, with varying levels of perplexity and concern. I myself have been loving it, but would love to hear what you all think about it. So let's start with someone who's seen it. Sean, you've seen some episodes, I believe.
I saw the first episode, and I was bored to tears for the first 3/4 of it, like literally dozing off. But I will say this about it: it didn't make up for the whole episode, but the twist that comes in that episode is very satisfying.
Mhm.
So I can see certainly how the show has potential. It didn't make me want to gouge my eyes out like Black Mirror usually does. So that's a plus in that column for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing more. It definitely has potential.
Okay, who else has watched it? Travis, what do you think?
I have seen the first 3 episodes, and well, I'm with Sean on episode 1. That episode sucks. I'm glad you found some kind of redemption in it, but I mean, like, I was by the end of it, I was like, what's the fucking point? Like, that was like, I was just like, why should I care about this story? Like, the twist is kind of fun, but I mean, like, it's just like, I was just like, well, that was a thing, I guess.
Yeah, Travis, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to touch on what you just said. Why should I care about this? Was the feeling I got through the whole thing, because we have no setup for this whatsoever. There's been no exposition really getting us to this point where
the pilot really was the exposition. I mean, whatever you think of how well it pulled that off, it really did.
Right.
I mean, it provided kind of the foundation for what happens in the rest of the series.
A bit, but not enough to really care about it. And I think that's what Travis is getting here. And Travis,
I definitely hear that. Go ahead and finish, Travis.
Watching the pilot, I was actually telling myself, like this would make a decent anthology series as far as the setting is concerned. But I mean,
that's basically what it is.
Yeah, and I get that. Like, especially since I have watched episode 2 and 3, so I kind of did get an idea of what was going on. But when I was going into this, I was like, if this is a story, if this is a serial story, I don't know how much I can take, because like, I just was not having it. By the time episode 2 came on, I was much more focused, but I still was very much like, that kind of thing. Like, it wasn't terrible, but wasn't really good. And I got the same vibe from episode 3. And I think while I was in the shower earlier, I think it hit me. The show is just a little too nihilistic for me.
Really?
Yes.
Not my takeaway at all, but go ahead.
Well, here's where I get it. Each episode that I've seen just has this like depressing well, this fucked up situation happens, and that's that. In the first episode, the daughter realizes her mom is pretty much gone. The second episode, you've got this dude dying because, well, he willingly swapped places with somebody. And
spoilers.
Spoilers, which is fine. Just let people know you're spoiling. But that's not really. I mean, most of that episode is not about that. I mean, it's sort of what happens, but most of the episode is not about that at all. But go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
Well, now I've just lost my train of thought, so I'm trying not to spoil too much. About that. Like,
about episode
I know that
2, about episode 3.
About the episode 3, I thought the concept was fun, though I've seen it in things like The Simpsons, God knows how many times. But I thought the concept there
Oh,
was
that's
fine,
beautiful.
but I was also very much peeved with this one because, like, I call me an optimist all you want, but I just am so sick of pop culture, like, just like showing us a family that is just like in the doldrums of marriage or the doldrums of love, and like, oh, love always leads to misery and misery loves company, and just like, good God, can I have a happy family, please? Like, I understand that a relationship isn't always happy, and I understand that it takes a lot of work, but it always feels like it doesn't really do much to explain, like, hey, a happy relationship is a relationship that is cooperative and dedication. It requires cooperation, dedication, sacrifice, and all that. Nope, you just got this other person who's gonna get in an affair. There's always the distraught children, and oh, why can't it always be happy? And by the time it finished, I was like, like I said in the show, I was like, this show feels really nihilistic to me, because by the end of each episode, I always felt like nothing mattered.
Okay, I mean, I could see why you come away with that. Before I chime in, did anyone else get a chance to see any of it? Justin, you want to weigh in?
I have not seen it yet. It's on my watch list. I'm getting ready to go through season 3 of the Hill first, and then once I do that, I'll go on to this one.
Okay, before you get started, Carlos,
Mhm.
I agree with you, Travis. For the love of God, CBS, stop giving us The Middle and the Goldbergs and all of this shit. For the love of God, stop it.
By the
That's
way, those
ABC.
are
That's
not
ABC.
CBS shows; those are ABC. Yeah. So,
And
Young
All of
Sheldon,
those-
okay, you're talking. But
all of those stations are starting to meld together at this point. One unifying doldrum.
Well, yeah, I mean, remember that ABC is also owned by Disney. But okay, I'm going to chime in. I don't see nihilism out of this, Travis. I see a lot of poignancy, and I see a lot of some real care taken in the storytelling. If you look at it across the episodes, each episode has its own theme, its own central character or characters. The thing I like about this show is that it's really painting a portrait of an entire community, in which this mysterious thing called the Loop is this underground
I
research
actually have a little bit
institute.
of a fun theory for you on that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that by the time you get to the finale of this season or whatnot, it'll probably connect immediately to the first episode, and you'll just be watching the show in a loop.
Maybe. The problem, of course, with that is I totally agree with Sean and you that the first episode is the weakest of the outings I've seen so far. I don't think it did a great job of. It gave you some exposition around, the thing, the big thing that's underground that everyone's studying and whatever. But dramatically, I don't think it really delivered what it needed to deliver in ways that you saw done much better in subsequent episodes. Go ahead, Travis.
I will say that I think I was just going to say, like, I tuned out a lot of the exposition in that first episode. I was that uninterested. I very much that first episode, But I will give the show this much credit. I will give it this much credit. The setting, I think, is actually very charming. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to write the show off. I would like to try and, maybe watch 1 or 2 more episodes and maybe see if it can win me over and whatnot. But I mean, it just, like, right now, I'm in this, like, I don't know camp, I guess.
Well, I think what I'm liking about this series is that it's not just an anthology series where these stories take place in the same general setting, but they're very independent stories. These stories sort of bleed into each other. The main character of each episode is a character you've met before in previous episodes, and it sort of expands into their life and the aspects of their life that's affected by the loop, by this
And that
strange.
concept is great. I mean,
And it works. I mean, because things that you may feel a little unfulfilled about from, say, episode 2, by the time you get to episode 4 and 5, you see some callbacks to that, that adds more texture to the entire series. And I think like there's a part of episode 2 that that when you get to episode 4, and it's just like a 3-second scene, but and if you get that far, you'll know what it is. But it involves a robot that is watching this little boy, and you feel this emotion from this robot, and why this robot is feeling this emotion, and you feel it, and that's hard to pull off with a robot. But there's no other direct reference to it in the rest of the episode. But if you'd seen episode 2, that 3-second scene is very, very moving.
I know exactly which scene you're talking about too, and I did enjoy that scene. I guess I will close out my thoughts by saying, like, if I do watch episode 4, 5, 6, whatever, I just hope that there's some main characters here that aren't complete assholes, because that's what the main characters of episodes 2 and 3 were. They were assholes. All right.
Well, in 2, one of them was an asshole. The other one was not so much an asshole.
But I mean, like, I feel like,
and same in 3. One of them was kind of an asshole. The other one was.
I feel
not
like
an
they're
asshole.
centered on the asshole, is what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
I want
center your asshole.
Star Wars could benefit from such an anthology series. Who'd make a pretty good. Who'd make a pretty good.
Toadman, of course.
Of course.
Your asshole.
Thank you for bringing that up, son. It's just what we needed. Okay, well, let's end that here. If any of you get a chance to watch any of it between now and next week, I don't think any of us has finished it yet. I'm certainly going to finish it at this point, and we can revisit it in the future if you all are interested. So we'll check back in and see what you all think about that. Okay,
I'll
so
end up watching it because you all sucker me into the new series that come around. You've done it like 3 other times already, so I'll end up watching this one too.
If the kid lets me watch anything other than shows with cars with faces on them, I'll gladly talk about it.
Do you need another TV in your house? Because I can hook you up.
It's not about having multiple TVs. It's about being able to watch something while at the same time watch the little guy.
Oh, I see. He's at that age. I understand. I had mine pretty well trained. When Harrison was 1 year old, I was really big into the X-Files. I was binging it on Netflix, and this is back in the days when you had to stick the disc into the PlayStation to get your Netflix to work, right? That's the only way the streaming would work. As soon as he would hear the music, he would come running into the room and jump into my lap in the recliner. So yeah, I've been training them for a long time.
He's been well trained ever since.
I'm trying to wean him now. As soon as he wakes up in the morning, he goes straight for the TV and starts to watch Bob the Builder. Or
motor vehicles with
Tony
faces.
the Truck or Super Truck or whatever the hell he sees on Amazon Prime that sparks his interest.
Squeeze Star Trek the Animated Series in there. It'll work. Trust me, it'll work. Yep.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic. And this is news out of the world of pandemics and the collapse of the American economy.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, cool stuff. But it has everything to do with Star Trek. The CBS-Viacom merger, much heralded in the past year, finally happened. Sherry Redstone, who is the head of Viacom, had been working towards this goal for probably about a decade, and finally got her wish come true. And to the dark circle / fandom menace, this was, of course, the light at the end of the tunnel that would save Star Trek. Except it's turning out it's not. And from a business standpoint, Viacom was always the weaker of the two, but because they're all owned by the Redstones, it ended up sort of ascendant. CBS, much stronger financially, in some ways is being dragged down now by, the market's expectations and unmet expectations around, what was going to ensue as a result of this merger. And it's looking pretty serious, and something that's potentially just compounded by the collapse of the economy. So there's a lot of potential discussion points here. One is, where does Star Trek fit in all of this? And two is, does this signal something about big mega mergers that we should be worried about, particularly when they have an impact on entertainment loved by geeks? Who would like to weigh in first?
Well, I'm still kind of confused on what the issue is, that with the merger, it's not as profitable as they thought it was because of everything going on right now?
No, this is all based on speculation.
Well, I mean, it's speculation to the degree that people who have invested in CBS are pissed off that that they're losing value in their investment because it's been shackled by,
Viacom.
I hate to break it to them, but everybody's losing value in their investments.
Well, no, but it was the quarter four results were abysmal, right? And so even before the economy started shutting down, Viacom was already on a downslope in terms of stock value. But I mean, again, I think some of that is just quarterly thinking. That's the problem with publicly traded companies, is that there's just like this myopic short-term view where everything is we have to be profitable this quarter. I mean, this merger was a long-term strategy. It's meant to play out long-term. The only thing I could say is there's a reason why Les Moonves fought it tooth and nail.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
there was. No. I mean, anyone who's familiar with CBS's finances versus Viacom's was not for this merger. I mean, it was a forced marriage in a lot of ways that the Redstones had just been pulling for a long time.
And I'm sure that I'm sure it is just a coincidence that in the midst of all of this back and forth with Moonves and Redstone and this conflict between the two of them, I'm sure it's just a coincidence that that's when all the allegations of sexual misconduct came out against Les Moonves.
Well, I'm not sure I read a conspiracy into that, but I mean, that may be just more, karma catching up with him at an inopportune time.
I got to be honest. I'm convinced they knew about it, and Sherry Redstone back pocketed it until it came to crunch time. That's just my feeling on this.
What was the link you posted earlier, son? For a quote from Garrick: "I believe in coincidences. I don't trust coincidences.
I believe in coincidences. Coincidences happen every day. I don't trust coincidence."
Yeah, and that's how I feel about this. Is that I don't think it's a coincidence whatsoever, because it's just the amount, and there were literal fucking legal battles going on in order to make that merger happen, and Moonves was in the way of the whole thing. So,
and the one thing I would say about that, I mean, if we're going to speculate on this and on Les's behavior, is that his wife, who's the very attractive, lovely woman, stood by his side and even left certain key roles at CBS to stand by her man. So again, that doesn't prove anything, but it does speak a lot to the situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it, I'm not going to discount the claims. Like I said, I think it was strategic as to when they came to light.
I'm sorry. You guys are talking about this, and the only thing going through my head. So Les Moonves was Gandalf on the bridge, and the merger was the Balrog.
You shall not pass.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you could make that. You
But
could
then
make
that
that
means he's going
comparison.
to come back much more powerful and clad in white,
So, but the Moves
looking like a Southern preacher.
Moves was not wrong about his main concern was that Viacom was going to drag down CBS, and that was his main concern. And in my opinion of this is looking at it, just watching the toilet that Viacom has been in for a long time. That's a legitimate concern. And look, I was at CES this year and last year. And last year, before Alex Kurtzman came on the stage, it was Bob Backish, who is now the head of the whole shebang. But he was head of Viacom at the time, of the new Viacom, the 2005.
The old new Viacom.
Right, exactly. And boy, oh boy, this guy sucking his own dick on stage. Holy shit! About how great Viacom was. I mean, it really was. It was suspicious that all these claims he was making. And one of the things I picked up on, didn't say a word about the Star Trek brand whatsoever. That's just something I picked up on. But dude, he's talking about the success of the fucking movie Monster Trucks. That's what he was excited about. And if anybody knows the history of that film, in that it was literally the brainchild of a 4-year-old who told his dad, hey, I got this idea. What about these monster trucks that are actual monster trucks? I mean, shit, man. It's what Backus was going on about, and how they were rising from the ashes back in 2019. It didn't seem to jive with the reality of what everyone else is seeing, is my point here about this. And I think it was just, propagandizing for public relations to really sell this notion of this merger. So
we are getting a second Top Gun movie courtesy of Viacom. So
2017. I got a part-time job at a video store here in Iowa. They still exist. And Monster Trucks was the movie that was on repeat in the store.
That's scary.
Because they hated you. That's why.
Well, no, I put on the Transformers movie whenever I was working.
The
animated one, not the Michael Bay one.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Stan
With
Bush
Leonard
version.
Nimoy and Orson Welles.
Smart. Good one.
Yeah, actually, when I think about it, that came out on Blu-ray at about the same time that you were working there.
The anniversary edition, yeah.
Yeah, the anniversary edition. I have this steelbook, actually.
Well, anyone else want to weigh in on CBS Viacom?
The only thing I'll say is, it's tough times right now. It's all there. I'm pretty sure that they will work through this. I'm sure. Let me try this again. Sorry. With everything going on in the world right now, they got to understand that, yeah, it sucks probably to be in this position, but I'm sure that they will persevere. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being the optimist. I'm still happy that Star Trek's under one roof again. So,
well, I don't think we've seen any indication of being under one roof having changed much of anything at this point. We still don't see a clear path to a new or renewed Star Trek movie franchise. Right. And as far as the TV franchise, that's always been well ensconced with CBS. That has not changed. And I don't think that Paramount now being, under the same corporate ownership as CBS necessarily has anything to change. There's nothing inherent in the Star Trek movie franchise that we're seeing compelling from a financial standpoint at Viacom and Paramount at this point that I can see.
Well, and here's what begs the question for me, and that is, what the hell did Sherry Redstone see as the positives for CBS merging with Viacom again? Just to get that much. I'm not understanding this.
It's a point of pride. That's
it?
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
shit!
There's little. Take a look at the Forbes article that that I linked to in the Trello on this, and it does a very good job of sort of breaking down what the financials are around each company separately and together. And what emerges is just not a very coherent rationale for why these two companies should be together, nor a coherent rationale for how to move forward in a way that will ensure that they should remain together. And that's pretty serious. And she's being very stubborn. She, went out and bought $2 million of stock of her own company as a show of, faith in its in the merger, but there's been no commensurate vote of confidence from the markets supporting this at all.
Yeah, I mean the smartest thing I thought, looking back on it, as annoying as it is for Star Trek fans, the smartest thing they did was split those two companies up. That was the best thing that ever happened to the old Viacom, which became CBS. That was the best thing that ever happened to that company. Was breaking up from the shackles.
The other thing too, though, is you're still operating, this entertainment conglomerate in silos, right? And so I think that's part of the problem. There is no. I think Carlos, you said it. There's no coherent strategy on how to move forward and make and to synergize the properties that the two now one company possesses, and how to move forward with making the most out of them. The fact is we're now April. This merger happened when October,
November, December,
right? And there still isn't even a clear strategy on the streaming platforms. We have Paramount has some streaming platforms that are kind of garbage. And I mean, you think in 4 months' time, 5 months' time, there'd be definite synergies starting to be created.
Frankly, there should have been plans for that before the merger.
Right.
That should have been that should have been part of the justification for the merger.
I totally agree with that 100%, because the fact of the matter is, just look at what your competition is doing. I mean, Disney literally, when they picked up the Fox brand, the 20th Century Fox brand, and took their whole catalog for the point to control the distribution of that media. And you've got the with HBO Max, the same thing going there with Warner. It doesn't make any sense in this landscape the way it is that CBS really has been a trailblazer to not take the combined resources of those two conglomerates together and to get one cohesive platform for them. I just don't see why they're not doing that, why that's not already been done at this point. Why?
Well, that's the kind of thing that would take time.
Yep.
And they did start to, explain some plans and goals around that, but it hasn't gotten very far.
That's my point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that.
Well, you got to realize that they all have different strategies going into this merger. So you had Paramount that was, their streaming service sucks. I mean, I don't know if anybody's used it. I have it on Apple TV. It's
it's bad. Yeah.
Right. And so Paramount's primary distribution was just using their catalog as revenue through for Netflix, or Hulu or Amazon Prime, right? So you just licensing out their movies. And so there's contractual agreements that are in place that you just can't revert on.
Right.
CBS, I mean, and I mean, what I don't get is why NCIS is still on Netflix. I mean, All Access has been around for a long enough time that you'd think those contracts would have expired. They would have pulled them and just focused on growing the All Access platform. So, I mean, again, I think both of them aren't really kind of going full bore in the media space the way they should, in the streaming space the way they should.
Well, I have an opinion on that, but it's not that interesting, so I won't belabor the point. Other than I think it has to do with the demographics of NCIS, and that it's a property that plays better on TV than it would on All Access, and I agree with that. While it has a lot of fans, they're not fans who are rabid, who are will follow it to CBS All Access, whereas they are people who are already on Netflix and they might as well make the money there.
It's called diversifying.
Yeah, but Disney's not doing that anymore, and they're gonna win this.
Well, that's because Disney is absolutely enormous.
Actually, Disney is doing that because they're not putting all their eggs in one streaming basket. That's why they bought and have retained branding on so many of the Fox properties, and you know, and have siloed their distribution depending on the content's maturity level to Disney Plus, Hulu, Showtime, and others.
The new DuckTales season 3 is not on Disney Plus. It's on Disney XD, which you have to pay extra to get.
I'm looking here at the production companies for NCIS, and I think I know why it's stuck over in limbo in Netflix. And I think it's because the fact of the matter is, some of the seasons were owned by Paramount, some of the seasons were owned by CBS Network, Paramount Network Television, some of the seasons are owned by CBS Television Studios. So it doesn't appear to me that CBS had the full
why
rights.
she merged the two.
Well, okay,
they've been
there's
around for a
there's
very
something
long
you
time.
need to be aware of with when it comes to licensing around CBS and Viacom owned properties, and this is something actually that they've been pretty smart about. Now, I can't swear that this is true for NCIS specifically, but one of the things that Viacom did, even after the split, you know, earlier in the millennium, was that they centralized their distribution and licensing through, I'm trying to remember which of the companies, because it's changed its name. But
Well, the CBS Television Distribution is the distributor of this, of the entire franchise.
Right.
And actually, for Star Trek, though, I think it's the other. I'm nearly positive it's the other way around. That actually, Viacom Paramount is actually the distributor of for Star Trek.
I'm not sure that's the case. I think the names have switched around because everything switched around. What
This is
was
so
Paramount
fucking
is now
confusing.
CBS and vice versa.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe
Welcome
everybody's
to
just
corporate
confused over there.
politics.
They have no idea what's going on. No one does.
So understand. So
big.
NCIS started as a spinoff of JAG. JAG and
Right.
NCIS were produced by Paramount Television. Paramount Television, when the split happened, Paramount Television went with which was producing Star Trek, went with CBS.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So
Right.
Paramount, even though the name there is there under as the production
Paramount.
company
Mhm.
as Paramount, still CBS retained ownership of the
Yeah,
television.
I'm starting to look at this, and the more I think about it, I think they just changed the names of the companies.
Yeah, they did.
What
They did.
happened here? The more I look at this, so.
Wasn't
So-
Jag on UPN whenever?
No, Jag
No.
was on CBS,
Okay.
and it was very, very big on USA.
The first season was on NBC,
Oh, I didn't
That's
know
right.
that.
That's right.
I didn't
and the
know
later
that.
seasons were
I think the big issue here is that even the split itself caused a lot of confusion.
Mhm.
Now re-merging everything is literally going to be it's going to be a monumental effort just to sort through and sift through everything to glue shit back together in the first place. So what you have, especially reading this article, you guys bring up a lot of good points, but reading this article, it seems like nothing but a whole bunch of people going, "Do you smell smoke? Do you smell smoke? I smell smoke." That's what it reads to me.
No, that's exactly correct. I think that's a very good characterization of it. But the problem, though, at the foundation here is that these are issues that should have been tackled pre-merger.
Yeah,
The fact that they weren't, that they really did not have a solid value proposition, you know, that was based in any actual strategic plans that they put forward, other than we now own everything, so that's good, which is basically what Doomcock thinks. You know, that's the problem. And now, you know, now they're stuck in this economy where they literally can't produce anything.
Well, hey, look
Paramount
at it
can't
this
anymore.
way. They literally have the months to sort through all of their properties and find all of the shit that they need to glue back together.
Yeah, you got some time in your hand. Hey, look, you know what business is booming right now, don't you? The puzzle business. So, I mean, it's perfect timing. You know, put that shit back together. No, I agree. I think what we're seeing here was, you know, when I think about this, when they were really talking about the reality of this becoming a thing, we're talking 18 months ago is when this was
Oh
a
yeah,
good-
yeah. It happened.
So-
Yeah, that long ago. Yes.
So
There was plenty of time.
to create a path, a roadway here
Mhm.
to get them to the point
But-
where first quarter 2020, we can say this is coming in fourth quarter 2020. We've gotten all this shit sorted out, you know.
But there are things that you can and can't do in a merger. Like, so you can't, like, you can't really look into the other business as much as you want in a merger situation because of safe harbor rules and things like that. You kind of have to wait until the merger's done. You can do due diligence and stuff, and they should have done that, but you can't. There's certain things you can't do.
Well, they know what properties they own, though, is the thing. Is what I'm getting at here.
You know, because the idea is normally in making the case for a merger, you go to the boards of each company with a pitch. You know, you're supposed to convince these people why this is a smart idea. The problem, of course, is that so much of both companies were still owned by National Amusements, the Redstones company, that in some ways it didn't matter, because if they wanted it to happen, they had the votes to do it, you know, or could piece enough together, which is eventually what happened. It just took several years to do it.
Once they had to get rid of the Moonvest loyalists on the CBS board to do it.
Mhm.
And they did that, right? I mean, there was that. And then I think that also left CBS, like the CBS structure, in a weaker position going into this merger, because the senior executives then were the Viacom executives. Right. And I think that's probably it too, is that like you probably are starting this new company with the weaker of the executive leadership.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, but like I said, Bob Bakish, who was in charge of Viacom, is the guy they have running the entire corporation now. So, I mean, your point is sound, Jason. I agree. It's right there.
At this point, I think the whole deal here is that she just got tired of having to fight Moonves.
Yeah, I agree.
And then once she got Moonves and all of his loyalists out of the way, she said, "We're getting it done. It's done."
Yeah, there's clearly some personal animosity between Redstone and Moonves. I mean, that was quite obvious. And who the fuck is he to tell me, that we're not going to do this?
Indeed. Okay, well, I think we've talked that one out.
And then some.
And then some. So let's go to our new segment, Question of the Week. As you all may be aware of, this week was the anniversary minus how many years of First Contact Day in Star Trek, as portrayed in the movie Star Trek First Contact, which happens, I think, in
43 years.
20, yeah, thank you, 43 years.
Yeah.
In April of 2063, 2163. Sorry.
No,
right?
2063.
2063. Okay,
2063. Yes.
In Bozeman, Montana.
You're already in the future, Carlos.
Right. So, anyway, that brings to mind the question of our own personal sort of first contacts with science fiction, gaming, genre, whatever is of personal meaning to you. And let's just sort of check in with everyone. What was your first contact in the genres that has propelled you into the super geek you are today? Let's start with you, son.
Honestly, it's okay. So this is going to be this weird tale. Okay, so like in the early 2000s, late 90s, there was this segment of Cartoon Network called Toonami.
Yeah,
and
I remember. Mm-hmm.
You had Tom Servo was the host of the whole thing, and he would the programming for the first season he was called Tom Servo. Yeah. During that, the programming would continue, and they'd splice in little snippets of him saying something or doing something or pushing a product. Well, he happened to be pushing this product this video game called The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, right? And I'm like, ooh, I think I want to play this game. So I get it. I start playing it, and all of a sudden, I find a D&D world that I've never been able to like quite leave behind, because there was so much reading involved, but every ounce of this world was intriguing. And the world itself, because of the location it was set in, was so alien and weird and different that I fell in love with it, and then started following on through the ups and downs. So Oblivion and Skyrim, and well, yeah, now we're waiting for the next installment. But yeah, it was a cartoon show that led me into a video game that led me into an entire world of stuff that's its own D&D thing.
All right. A touching memory. Jason,
Very
how about
cool.
you?
Very cool.
So growing up, my dad was a bus driver, drove for National Trailways and then Greyhound. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents because my mom also worked. So every day after school, I hung out at my grandparents' house, and so it was sandwiched in between a Three's Company rerun and a MASH rerun was the original series. And so it was something me and my grandfather always watched. My first memory of a movie in the theater, it was The Search for Spock. And with my dad.
You're so young. Oh my god.
Well, I mean, I was 77, but
Right,
I mean, that was my first memory of like that's the one that like stuck with me. I know I went to movies before that, but the one that like when I think about my first movie theater experience, it was The Search for Spock, and it was me, my dad, my grandfather, and then my grandfather passed away in 1986 in September, so just before The Voyage Home came out, right after TNG was announced. So we were really looking forward to that. He didn't get a chance to enjoy either of those, but I did, and I think that's really been a big part of my geek fandom is that time with him, and it's so.
All right. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go next.
All right.
So, I've always been a Star Trek fan. I don't remember what my first memory of Trek was, but it's kind of always been a part of my life, Next Generation specifically. And growing up, I didn't really have many friends to share that fandom with. I had an uncle, my Uncle Bob, who was a big Trekkie, and he and I would often share our love of Trek in one form or another. But growing up, going through high school, my first years in the Navy, I had to really scale back in my enthusiasm. I spent about a year as a Tamaran, more or less, because the only way I could really relate to people and their conversation was to use movie quotes. So I'd spend most of my conversations was throwing out a movie quote that I thought was relevant to the conversation, and it made for some very odd moments and a few unfortunate nicknames.
Nothing as cool as the eyebrows of doom.
Oh no, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Yes,
But,
it's very inspirational even to this day.
Very endearing.
But come 2010, a little game called Star Trek Online came out. And there were a few guys in the shop who were playing. We were all playing World of Warcraft at that point anyway. And I got into it. The Foundry was announced, and I really wanted to get into that. So I started looking for websites and other things that would help me with the builds that I was these stories, ideas that I was trying to come across. And that led me to a little podcast that some of you might know as Podcast UGC, with the hosts of Heath Rowell, Terry Shull, and a few other rotating hosts. Listening to that show periodically got me into another podcast that some of you may know of as the GNT Show, another one of Terry Shull's podcasts.
Classic.
A classic, yes. Hosted also by Nick Benetti and, of course, friend of pretty much all of us here, Michael Medeiros. I got involved. I started writing into the show, talking to the hosts, made friends with a few of them, and that, of course, led into the Gates of Stavokor, the Klingon audio show. I got brought in as a writer and actor, got really involved with the show, And through that, I got to know a show called Star Trek Starfinder, and I think you know where this is going.
Yeah.
Through
I
that,
think we know.
and the crossover that we were doing with Starfinder and Gates of Stoichor, I made friends with our dearly departed friend George Silsby. And ever since that crossover, I was involved in pretty much every project George had. He was always throwing story ideas at me, characters, ideas, which cast, bat radio, you name it. We talked about it. And then, of course, 2015, I was getting ready to get out of the Navy. I was in a pretty rough time. He was helping me out with that, and he came up with this idea for a little podcast that he wanted me as a part of, that he wanted to call the Super Geeks. I joined in the second episode, and well, here we are.
The rest is history.
The rest is
Sounds
history.
like a waste
history.
What a journey and a tale we weave when you look back and see where it all starts.
And it really was its own roller coaster. Holy crap.
I bet.
Being with George is always a roller coaster.
Yes.
That's an
Black
understatement.
Star Radio. Oh my God.
I only have one memory of George, and I just like it's a happy memory. I believe it was one of the last shows that he was on here. Actually, we were talking about The Mandalorian, and I just remember I know this is a very hard time in his life, but I remember him just in that bed, and I just remember thinking, like, what a trooper. What a trooper. I don't know this guy, but he's a trooper. And
Dude,
He
George's
lived.
life was a life of hardship.
Yes.
There's a reason that why he was drunk so often. The guy went through homelessness twice and still tried to manage to have a creative outlet to bring his ideas and stories to life.
And oh boy, when he would get on a drunk, he would get on a drunk. Yeah, that's how I came in.
Guys, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but there is a lost episode of Super Geeks somewhere out in the ether where George was so drunk he couldn't get the topic straight and he kept repeating the same one over and over again. We tried and move him on to something new.
We've seen that happen.
And then
Yeah, we've definitely seen
not
that.
probably as many times, but we've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a joy and a pain in the ass all at the same time.
I remember one time he had a box of wine and he was drunk off his ass. He was just drinking out of the box of wine throughout the whole show. It was one of my first shows. He was lit. I come in, I'm like, what the hell?
He was lit.
We had to remind him to please be sober for the show.
We did.
Yeah,
we actually
we
had
did.
to enforce that a few times with him.
We were
But
like,
yeah.
George, are you
God
drinking?
rest his soul.
Okay, good show. Are you not drinking? All right, good. All right, good.
Okay, who have we not heard from yet? Sean?
Yeah, it's kind of a convoluted tale when I think about it because, I grew up a kid in the 80s. I was born in 75. And my first two film experiences I distinctly remember were Star Trek The Motion Picture and in the 1980, it was the 80 re-release of Star Wars, which I was, far too young before in 77. I was a year and a half when it came out. So those are my first two in-theater movie experiences. And I'm going through the kid in the 80s, I was exposed to Transformers, G.I. Joe, these animated, all this pop culture stuff. And
Those episodes, the G.I. Joe's now on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I saw they've got it. I also have the entire series on my hard drive too.
Shocker.
But
Joe.
I go through. When Batman came out in '89, I was always on the periphery of things like this, and I had a friend of mine who's big into comic books. His name is Marco Rivera. It's when I lived in Willimantic, Connecticut. And he was big into it, big into comics, got me into comics. And for several years, I was into comics. But then, I was into, I would watch, it's like I always point out to people with Star Trek. It's like, I was never a fan of Star Trek when I was a kid growing up. Star Trek to me was something I always liked, but it was never appointment television. And when Next Generation came out in '87, it was actually the day after my 12th birthday, and I remember it distinctly. And I would catch an episode here and there. It wasn't a big deal to me. And then by the time I hit high school, I started getting interested in girls, and I ignored all that stuff. And it was 1997 that I really became a Star Trek fan. And what had happened was I needed a hobby, and I wanted to get back into model building. And for whatever reason, AMT Ertl had flooded the market with Star Trek models during that era.
I remember those.
They were fucking everywhere. And the stores, the hobby shops and the toy stores had more of them than they knew what to do with. So I was picking them up at like Big Lots for like $5 a pop and things like that, and clearance shelves over at Toys R Us. So I had boxes and boxes of these model kits. And the more I started building these models, the more I started getting interested into like the technical side of the models. And I had a girlfriend at the time who worked at Borders Books. I would pick her up after work. And while I was waiting there, I started thumbing through Rick Sternbach's TNG technical manual.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just obsessed. I became obsessed with it. And it just so happens that, I lived with my parents at the time, and this is in Syracuse, New York, the local Fox affiliate would play Deep Space Nine reruns at midnight every single night. And of course, that show being serialized the way it was, is that I was getting Monday through Friday this whole arc of stories while I was building these models. And I just kind of became obsessed with Star Trek at that point. I wanted to I wanted to watch all the series, go back and watch all the other series. And it really made me realize that one of the things I love the most about Star Trek is what Sun talks about, are this creating of this entirely fictional universe to escape into. I love these fictional universes that these creatives have put together. And it occurred to me that these fictional universes exist outside of Star Trek as well. And there is so much more out there for me to get involved in. And it reminded me that when I was a kid, I was involved in that stuff. And and so although I was introduced to it when I was really young, I didn't really become a big geek until I was like, I'd say about 21, 22 is when I just became immersed in all of this. And it's all from there. I just absorbed it all at that point.
All right. Justin, how about you?
Well, let's see. I started with the video games at a young age. My grandparents always got me into computers. One pushed me into the technological side of things. Comic books, video games. Star Trek was also at that age. Hell, my first movie, I think, was The Search for Spock when it was in theaters in '84. Hard to believe I can remember that far back. And then after that, I've seen movies in the theaters ever since. So every time I see Star Trek movie, it's kind of tradition to go out to the theater and watch it. Been like that ever since The Search for Spock. I mean, I'm just video game. That's pretty much the same basic thing, but everybody else, just it's because of culture. It's fun. It's release. It's something, it's something to look forward to whenever everything else in the world looks like shit. You still have, fun thing that you can go through to escape and escape into the fantasy world. And that's what being a geek is.
All right. Let's see. Travis, you haven't officially given us an answer. You commented on another person's answer. Do you want to jump in?
Weasel, when did I become a geek?
That explains everything. Thank you, Travis.
I honestly, like, I don't really have an answer too much. The more I think about it, it boils down to like maybe three things. One, my very sheltered childhood. Two, the pursuit of the forbidden fruit, and 3, just free time. Like, when it comes to things like video games, I did not grow up with a lot of video games. In fact, like, to put it in perspective, I was born in 1990. I know I'm one of the younger people here, but like, I did not get a gaming console until the PlayStation 2. And that was towards the end of its life cycle too. So I was very, like, my mom didn't want me doing too many video games back in the day. I mean, like, I guess I had a Game Boy Color, but even then it was very limited in what I had access to. And so when I moved to Colorado and started making friends here in like 96, and I'm starting to get exposed to the PlayStation and like games like Grand Theft Auto, which mortified my mother. It very much like just like kind of like my pursuit of this like forbidden fruit and whatever the kids were talking about, like Pokemon and whatnot, was just, it like consumed my life right then and there. When it comes to Star Trek, my dad has always been very much a Trekkie. I remember him watching things like Voyager and Deep Space Nine. I did not grow up with cable either, so I did not grow up with The Next Generation. I believe I've talked a bit about this before on the show. I didn't watch a single episode of Next Generation until like 2015, 2016.
Whoa.
I'll always love Carlos's blown mind at that statement.
That just,
Oh,
I mean, given your sort of your station these days in the world of Star Trek, it just blows my mind that, you know, when I was deep into production of my last movie, my most recent movie, you had barely discovered like the most seminal Star Trek series there is.
Absolutely. Given the fact that he runs the absolute largest Pee Wee Herman ship posting group on Facebook, you would think he would have seen Next Generation.
Like, I mean, I've seen it in its entirety, and I have things to say about it, but I mean, it's very much like back in the day of like, you just run into me in like 2013, 2014, I'd probably be like, I mean, I like the show.
You were born in season 2, dude.
Carlos was making fan films where you were in grade school.
I did not grow up with cable. I was very much broadcast, so I did not. I was not exposed to broadcast The Next Generation. It was very much reruns of DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise, and that was it. My dad actually started to push Star Trek on myself and my sisters when he started buying DVDs of the original series, which each contained 2 episodes each.
That's
2.
right.
Yep.
And he introduced us to The Trouble with Tribbles. That was my very first original series episode, and it was the very first episode of Star Trek that I can very, very like explicitly remember watching. Like, I could say like I watched DS9 and Voyager reruns prior to this, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what episodes they were. Tribbles was always a special one to us because we had a little family tradition in our family of naming our cats after Star Trek characters. It lasted for 2 cats before the tradition fell apart, sadly. The first cat was Neelix. He was a cuddle butt, and we miss him. And the second cat was Tribble. And so we watched the Tribble episode, and it devolved from there. And I mean, like, my sister still has this like stack of orange DVDs, each with 2 episodes each of the original series. And,
oh yeah, I remember those. Yep.
And just kind of like, I think after that, I may have watched the first reboot in theaters around 2009, and was like, oh, that was cool. And I think it wasn't until like I had moved out of the house and was in my room cleaning that I was just like scrolling through Netflix trying to think of what to put on, and I just came upon Star Trek, and I was like, you know what, screw it. And I started just putting it on, and I just started talking about it. And I think it was like this want to talk about it with my dad, paired with my inner critic kind of like being like motivated around this particular time due to like videos from the nostalgia critic and whatnot. I don't watch him anymore, but I very much was like starting to like become a bit of a hobby critic in this area, and watching Star Trek and realizing, wow, this show has a lot more than I realized going for it. It just exploded, I guess, if you want to call it that, and that eventually exploded onto Google Plus, which died, and eventually exploded onto Facebook, and well, here we are now.
Here we are today. All right.
I am part of a wonderful community. I've met some wonderful people, and sometimes I know I probably ramble too far and don't have too much to say, but when I do enjoy talking with others. I enjoy talking with everybody here.
Well,
And
enjoy
vice
having
versa.
you. Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you.
Let's see. Who is missing? Have I gotten everyone?
Did Sun go?
Yeah, I thought Sun did. Didn't you go, Sun?
I went.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I think that just leaves me. So I'll keep mine short. In the 70s, when I was coming of age, the Holy Trinity was Star Trek, Star Wars, and Battlestar Galactica. Starting, of course, with Star Trek, which came on the air when I was 3. So it's basically been part of my conscious thoughts since then in 1966. And
So what you're saying is you were born in Star Trek, molded by it.
very much so. Even
Really adopted the Trek.
and to the point where I mean, I was a fan, obviously, and I don't think I was ever amongst the most rabid fans, although people who know my work may argue with that, given the fact that I spent a significant portion of my adulthood writing and producing fan films. But along the way, getting to meet most of the casts of the Star Trek shows, and not just meet, but actually working alongside many of them, which was something I never expected. Working alongside, David Gerrold, who wrote The Trouble with Tribbles, was this thing I just never ever expected to happen. And when he saw one of my first fan films, and one of the things he said to me was, that feels like Star Trek, which was like this huge thing for me. And so it's played a pretty big role in my life. And for people who have often wondered online, what my big deal with Axe Monitor is, and why Axonar, seems to be like this, white whale for me. It's because a lot of my adulthood has been spent around fan films, and even though I don't produce them anymore, I haven't written and produced them for almost a decade, they still were very formative for me. I made some wonderful and important friendships out of it. My career as an independent filmmaker, screenwriter, rose literally out of fan films. So it's a big deal to me, and the threat that I saw Axonar posing to the future of fan films, and keeping people from having the same kind of amazing experiences I was able to have. That's really why I was so passionate about it. And, so it's a big deal for me. I'm glad it happened. I have to thank my older brother, who we've never been particularly close, but I did admire him. And he's the one who got me into comics, into Star Trek. I was able to find, Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica on my own, but he really got the ball rolling with comics and Star Trek. So my first contact.
Perfect. I was going to just comment about what fan films are at the end of the day. I've always said this. Fan films aren't about the making of the movie. They're not about how many hits you get on YouTube. What they're about is it's your personal celebration of your love for whatever particular franchise that you're dedicating your fan film to. And that's what I think is so pure and wonderful about fan films. It's like, this is why I've always appreciated Vance Major Owen, because as I love Vance. Vance is a really nice guy, and he is so dedicated to Star Trek, and his films are god awful to watch, but there's so much love in everything he does. And that's what makes me appreciate him so much in what he puts out there. And I think that's, unfortunately, you and I and others who have been involved in, this white whale of Axanar, this is what we watched go on the decline. It stopped being about the love of Star Trek, of that thing we love, and it became about selling merchandise, promoting ourselves, everything else except for just celebrating what our love for Trek, or for whatever fan film you make. And,
You're right.
and my hat's off to you, Carlos, for that, because I know that's why you did it, and I know that's what your goal always has been, and to help others to do the same. So,
And while we're on that subject, that's what made me fall in love with fan films. And whenever I started getting involved in this project, I mean, it's fans coming together to create something they love. And at the time, it was a passion of love. No one wanted money. No one gave a shit about fame. Everybody just did it because they did it. Because they wanted to do it. They did it because they wanted to please not only themselves, but they wanted to do something that would make others happy.
yeah, and there's another thing to consider with that too, is that
I did audio shows.
Yeah, well, the genesis of this really, the genesis of this really, you got to remember, it came during what were really dark times in Star Trek fandom, when there was no content, and Star Trek fans needed to relive and create more stories around this universe that they loved. So that's when this all really began in the mid 70s, going into the 80s.
And
I got the yeah.
Go ahead.
It's for you. Thanks, Justin. You're welcome.
Never give up.
For folks
Never
at home,
surrender.
that was obviously the Galaxy Quest theme, but was also the theme that we used for Hidden Frontier for so long. So I got the privilege several years ago, of meeting Carrie O'Quinn, who was the founder of Starlog magazine, which for geeks in the 70s and early 80s was it was a lifeline. In many ways, for Star Trek was still far away from becoming a motion picture, much less a renewed series. He and his magazine covered all of these shows. I mean, all of them. Whether it was Galactica, Star Wars, even the God forbid, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, and so forth. But he covered it with love and attention and passion, and I got the chance to thank him for that. He's a super nice guy, and he said to me, "I'm just really moved to hear from someone who was a kid at that time, how important my work was to you," and it was. So I was super happy that I got
That's awesome.
thank someone.
All those old issues are available on the Internet Archive.
That's right.
And what's really awesome is to go through, and like the letters to the editor are probably my favorite parts now, because you can just see all the bitchiness that fans have now. Yep. They were just as bitchy back then.
People don't change. People don't change.
That's the bad part about it. Even on the DS9 documentary that we were watching, talking about a week or so ago, some of the letters they were reading off about the hate mail that DS9.
Yeah, DS9 got a ton of hate mail.
Yeah. Shit that the Discovery and Card people are getting now. Same exact shit.
As King Solomon himself put it, there is nothing new under the sun.
Right. It's funny. I think I've told the story before, but several years back, about a decade ago, when I used to have a little side business of, I would buy out like Star Trek collections, and then we sell stuff on eBay. And one of a collection I bought from the state one time included binders full of Star Trek Next Generation magazines from when the series first came out and into the 90s. And it's amazing to me how much content they would pack into those magazines for a series. Because remember, this is as it was happening. So we're talking the first episode comes out and there's already a magazine for it. It's just chock full of so much information. They're a delight to go through, 30 years later. They really are.
A couple of the magazines actually have the writer's misspelled name because it was supposed to be something completely different. What it wound up being, if I remember correctly.
But remember, none of that information is canon.
Nothing is
true.
canon. Everything is true.
Especially the lies.
Especially the lies.
One of the great things about that time period of Starlog and so forth was this wonderful thing called the Star Trek giant poster magazine. It was a fold out. I'm sharing it with you right now, and it was a fold out thing that just were a lot of articles about. It was at the beginning, it was all original series. And one of the things that I remember the most about it was they actually published the rules for playing tridimensional chess.
Yep. Do you know who?
I thought you were going to say Fizbin for a second.
Do you know?
I was going to say that was an impossibility.
Do you know who published the poster book? You're not going to believe this. I don't know if you're aware of this. Who actually published that poster book out of his office in New York City? Do you know who it was?
Alec Peters.
No, Doug Drexler.
Doug Drexler, really?
Yep. This is way back in the day before he ever had anything to do with the franchise. And he was just a massive fan, and he asked for they requested the rights to make their little publication. They had a little club in New York, and he requested the rights for them. They said, "Sure, go ahead," because at that point Paramount didn't give a shit. They were giving anybody who asked, they would just say sure. And so that's all Doug's. I've got several of them. That was also in that collection too, and they're wonderful. They're great. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the Doug shares a lot of that.
I actually found images from those particular giant poster books that I really loved. Here's the rules for Tri-D chess and a history of the Federation, which was just so mind-bogglingly cool to think about. The Scotty interview on Starship Engineering, which went into a lot of the stuff that later some of which has become canon around like warp drive and stuff. And then this last one, which I thought was the best, was the heroines of Star Trek, and particularly the picture that you see there of Uhura at the navigation station is one of the things from my childhood that I remember the most, and just thinking how cool it was that she wasn't just a communications officer. She could take over any station on that bridge. Sure. And she was just such a character to admire.
Yeah, exactly. Again, that universe that was created, it wasn't just limited to the 79 plus 1 episodes that they made. There was really heart and love put into that. So.
Well, okay. We are getting close to our end time, and there's a couple of topics I want to make sure we address. Number one is over to you, Sean, as we see the saga continue in Duck Doom 2. As you have more to tell us about what happened there, and some internet wags who've found ways to squeeze even more comedy out of your duck situation.
The prelude to Quacksalar.
Okay, man.
Fair use, bro. Like, totally.
It's outstanding. I laugh. That's from my good friend Al Petrie. It's so brilliant.
It made my whole goddamn week, I have to tell you.
He just because he whipped it up so fast.
Like in 10 minutes. It was amazing.
It's so awesome. Yeah. So as people know, I've had an ongoing saga of several years of these ducks that show up in my backyard in my pool, and she has little ducklings, and they all want to die everything I can to stop that from happening. And of course, once again, they showed up. And by the way, it's not even my house anymore. I don't live there. We bought the house 4 houses down, and that one's in closing. Where it's somebody else's problem. So
Is it?
well, no, apparently not, because one night 4 of the ducks died, and I came back a couple of days later, found 4 more dead. And so I'm pulling into the driveway the other night at the new house, 4 houses down, and this is what I see here, and this is the shit that I'm dealing with now. Motherfuckers are stalking me now. This is in front of my
Crack
driveway.
cocaine.
Yeah, waiting. They were standing around like I owed them money. I mean,
They know what you did, Sean. They know.
I have to ask this. Early reports were saying this, so I have to ask: is it true or not that one duck could be heard shouting, "Yo, we heard you was talking shit about our ma"?
I didn't hear that, but there are reports of that. Exactly.
Well, and let's be clear about what we're looking at here, folks. What we're looking at here was a post that Sean made on Facebook in desperation to his ever patient wife, Marilyn, about being, stalked by these killer ducks who are pissed off about, what a duck murderer he is, basically. Right. And Marilyn's like, keep them away.
Yeah, it's madness that these ducks are now they're following my ass everywhere. I have done everything I can. I swear to God, I just keep trying to save these fuckers, and it just keeps getting worse. God.
They heard you have access to the butthole cut of cats.
Yeah, that's it. They must want to see the butthole cut of cats. That's got to be it.
All right. Well, I hope that you will keep us posted on how the Duck Doom saga continues in the future. If
I survive the weekend, yeah.
Dude, I'm sure it's going to continue. You're going to continue. There will be more to tell about this story. You're going to hear it, folks at home, here first on the Super Geeks podcast. And we're going to move to our second to last, our final formal topic. And that is one I know Ross has been waiting all show to talk about.
He's been waiting all week.
Yeah, you've been waiting all week to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
And that is The Legend of the White Dragon and its return on Kickstarter as a film to be not to be trifled with. Bring us up to speed, Ross, and tell us why people are so damn happy.
Well, first off, the Legend of the White Dragon was originally pitched as a crowdfunding campaign back in
2016.
Yeah, 2016, and brought back Jason David Frank as the lead role. JDF, or JDF as he's also known. Fans of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers would know this actor as Tommy, the Green Ranger. And he is the most prolific actor of that entire series, having been in 6 different iterations as a ranger and once as the mentor. And he's constantly coming back for guest performances as Tommy in various images and forms and costumes that he's had throughout the years and years as a ranger. He even had a kind of a when Boom Comics did a storyline about a alternate universe Tommy that went evil and got all of these evil ranger powers and kind of took over the world, they did a live action trailer of the character that they called Lord Draken. So he is a huge staple of the Power Rangers fandom, which is still going strong to this day. So back in 2016, Bat and the Sun, which you might know from Superpower Beatdown, who've made very, very high-quality live action sequences pitting together 2 fictional characters, have actually used Tommy in the past as the White Ranger versus Scorpion in a really fun match. They've also done Batman versus Darth Vader, Wolverine versus Thor, just a whole bunch of fun stuff. Really high quality shorts on shoestring budgets. They originally wanted to do a movie, an original setting called Legend of the White Tiger. They released a trailer for it. It is really fun, very interesting looking, certainly B-movie quality, but high quality B-movie quality. They asked for $500,000 to get it done. And unfortunately, it didn't get the interest they wanted, and they only raised about $200,000. So they came back last week with a renewed trailer and a new campaign where they're going to release a limited series rather than a film, and this time they only asked for $100,000. Since that trailer in 2016, there has been a lot of fan interest, and now they're back. They've reached their first goal, and as of today, refreshing.
Someone drum roll, please.
$210.
Voting.
100,400 and $143,000. $143,000. There we go. Has been reached. They have reached their first goal, and it looks amazing. It looks like a lot of fun, and I personally love B movies. I love the passion that goes into them. I love how they cut corners around low budgets in order to create an interesting product. One of the last ones I watched was called Scorched Earth, starring Gina Carano, as we all know her from The Mandalorian, in a kind of post-apocalyptic Western. And it looks
my favorite
like...
kind of Western.
Yep.
But they're bringing back JDF and a bunch of other Power Rangers alumni in something
all
that
of
is...
them, actually, I think.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. In something that is... It feels similar, but they're certainly making it their own. The director of Bat in the Sun is very experienced in Hollywood choreography. He did a lot of choreography with the Marvel Netflix series. So there is a lot of expertise and passion behind this film, this short series. If they get enough money, they are going to make it a full film. Let's see.
You guys will have to forgive Ross if he starts tripping over himself. He's running on 2 hours of sleep and cat naps.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And he's really excited about this.
That's how those eyebrows get to doom.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into the reasons for that when we're doing What Are We Watching?
Okay.
But for $100,000, they're doing a mini-series, a short series of episodes about 15 to 20 minutes each. At $250,000, they're going to do an extended series for more episodes. And if they reach their original $500,000 goal, they'll do a full 2-hour feature film.
Wow.
Instead
of the series or in addition to?
No, instead of the series.
Okay.
So I'm going to be following this. I'm really excited for it, if you can tell.
Well, good. We'll keep us posted.
This kind of passion project really harmonizes with me. So I'm glad to be able to share it with you guys. Hopefully get you on board for the project so that they can reach those higher goals and enjoy it and all the fun that'll come with it once it eventually comes out.
I just hope they actually go through with this time, because last time they generated a lot of hype for it. And
they got a lot of hype, but they didn't reach the goal.
Yeah. And they up and quit. They said, oh, well, that's it. And they buried it.
Well, there was a lot of goings-on back then. Bat in the Sun was still owned by Machinima. Machinima had just been acquired by Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers really didn't know what to do with the product since it wasn't generating the ad revenue they wanted. MCMs were a really big scam back in the day, and Machinima was one of the bad ones.
Is Machinima even a thing anymore?
It is not. It imploded spectacularly, and pretty much a lot of its content is either reverted back to the original creators or it's been handed over to Rooster Teeth. Bat in the Sun is an independent studio now, as an example.
Right.
Cool.
Well,
they're still making superpower beatdowns, by the way.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing us up to speed. Please keep us posted.
Will do.
Folks at home, we have links to the Kickstarter in the Trello. So check it out and see if it's worth your support. And let's move to our final segment of the show, which is what are we watching? Since we're running over time, let's try to keep it to one thing.
Oh, fuck.
Well,
A lot of things.
okay,
You
let me
can't
put it
do one
this way.
thing.
If you're going to do more than one thing, you do lists, not an explanation for every damn one, okay?
That's what I'll do.
Okay, great. So we'll start with Jason.
Oh,
What are you
great.
watching this week, Jason?
Okay, so as you know, there's the Office Ladies podcast, so I'm doing a rewatch of The Office along with the podcast. Last week, Donald Faison and Zach Braff announced a Scrubs podcast.
I've heard about that. That's supposed to be pretty good.
So I am now on that bandwagon as well. And then just this past week, Michael Imperioli and was it Robert Sherpa have started a Sopranos podcast. So rewatch podcast starting. So I'm going through those 3 series now, one episode at a time every week. So, and then the corresponding podcast.
All right, excellent. And Justin, what have you been watching this week?
Oh, there you go. Well, I just starting DuckTales season 3. That finally dropped on Disney XD. I'm going to be starting the loop after that, and that's pretty much it this week. Other than YouTube and gaming, yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. And Son, how about you?
Okay, so like I told you last week that I fell in this hole of the Townsends, right, with the colonial cooking. I
Right.
fell into another cooking.
Oh
hole.
dear.
It's called Great Depression Cooking, and it was basically it was a channel started by
How topical.
Yeah, it was a channel started by either the grandson or the son of the host. Essentially, it's basically he was filming his filming the her name's Clara. It's basically she's the matriarch of this family, but she lived in the Great Depression. So he was basically filming all of the recipes that she used to make for or that she used to have during the Great Depression, and that she still continued to make to the day she died, essentially. And recently, because of what's been going on, he's had the time to sit and start high definitioning all of the videos, as well as going through a whole bunch of old film footage to find episodes that he's never had on the channel before. So we're actually getting both new content and an increase in the quality of the old content. And it's amazing because, I mean, like, poor man's meal is literally just potatoes, onions, and frozen hot dogs.
Yum.
Have they done Shit on a Shingle yet?
Shit on a Shingle's awesome.
I don't think that's what it's called, but like there's simple potato soup, there's like all kinds of stuff in this, honestly.
My grandma used to tell us use her poor and talk about eating shit on a shingle when she was in the depression.
Yeah, no,
It's actually really good. It's really good. Okay, who's next? Travis.
I have got a crazy repertoire of what I've watched this last week. Like Justin, I also started season 3 of DuckTales. Only I'm not watching it on.
You guys are so cute.
Oh, shut up! This show is brilliant, and fuck you.
You're supposed to say, "Okay, boomer."
No, that's my sister's insult.
I'm too high class for that insult.
No, it's like after she dropped that on my uncle of all people, well, family friend uncle, like it's an insult that I've given to her. She's the only one that knows.
Okay.
Anyway, like Justin, I've started season 3 of DuckTales. I dropped $30 to watch it since I don't have Disney XD. But I also caught up on the Clone Wars. I am caught up on that. I also have been watching all these shows, which I blame Ross for quite frankly, because earlier this week, Ross shared a little video on my Facebook feed, like, here, you like Pokemon, here, watch this death battle video. I'm like, okay, whatever. And the thing is, like, I enjoy the death battle videos now and then, but the thing is, when I watch one, I tend to put it on in the background while I'm doing anything like working. And when that happens, I put them on like in succession. So I start listening to battles like Leonardo versus the Red Ranger or Aang versus and like just like, why am I listening to this junk?
This
But,
latest one was Machamp versus Goro. So
That's what he
Pokemon
did.
versus Mortal Kombat.
Exactly what he did, and Pokemon won. Hell yeah. Anyway, where I'm going with this is that
You're so cute.
I think
Well,
my
I mean,
favorite's Ryan
look,
versus,
the creature that can
White
create
Ranger.
an earthquake is naturally going to win.
But anyway, the where I was going with this originally was that listening to this was like, you know what? I haven't watched this show in a while. I haven't seen this show before, and I've been wanting to check it out. So I actually revisited the 2003 cartoon of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oy.
A brilliant cartoon for any of you Ninja Turtle fans. I have no idea if I'm the only one here.
You are not.
Well, good on you, Ross.
on you, Ross.
I introduced myself to an anime that I have been meaning to check out, but haven't really gotten around to. I finally watched the first episode of a show called Afro Samurai.
Oh, yes.
And that was an entertaining half hour, to say the least.
That's an entertaining series.
It definitely looks entertaining, and I'll be checking it out soon. I'm also planning on revisiting other childhood favorites like Avatar: The Last Airbender and Jackie Chan Adventures and Samurai Jack and all kinds of fun stuff. I have way too many cartoons. I love cartoons, and if that makes me cute, then so be it.
So you're our Tom Paris.
Hey,
I have a ton. I have the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on DVD.
Nice.
I will wear that as a badge of honor if I'm getting compared to Tom Paris.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, Sean.
Okay,
This is your chance. Keep it short, mister.
I've got 4 things I want to mention. 2 I'll go into a little bit of detail here on. As far as series are concerned, I just finished Ozark season 3. If you have not watched Ozark, okay, Ozark is
That's on Netflix.
Yeah, I explain this to people as such. If you like Breaking Bad, think of Breaking Bad having started in season 4. Okay, that's
gotten that far.
Well, Ozark picks up at that point basically where the protagonists are already neck deep in with their cartel. So outstanding series. Season 3 is actually, I hate saying this, but I really think the show's just getting better every season. Season 3 is outstanding, and it ends on such a magnificent cliffhanger note. It's like, oh my God, I need more right now. Show you and I have talked about, Carlos Counterpart. I just finished up season 2. There are only 2 seasons of the show. It got dropped by Stars. It's an amazing science fiction series, basically about 2 parallel Earths in a Cold War against each other, and it's just a brilliant series. Season 2 was by far the better of the 2 seasons, and season 1 was good, but season 2 is amazing. 2 documentaries I want to talk about real briefly here. Never Give Up, Never Surrender is the Galaxy Quest documentary that is currently available on Amazon Prime Video for free if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber. Watched it last night. It was so enjoyable. If you need something to lift you up during these times.
These dark times.
Yeah, these dark times. That is the documentary that will just make you believe in hope again. It's just a wonderful little film.
You know, that the seminal line from that entire movie was Sigourney Weaver going, "I have one job on this ship."
And they discuss that. It's so funny. It's hilarious. She's so fucking self-aware. It's unbelievable. She's brilliant. I love her so much in that movie.
Yeah,
The other
brilliant.
documentary I want to talk about here, and I forgot what it's called, but here's the thing: if you bought the Rise of Skywalker, there's a 2-hour documentary on it that covers, of course, the saga itself, but primarily the making of Rise of Skywalker. It is a wonderful documentary. It gives a lot of insight into like a lot of questions, like even things that I question about why did they do this? Why did they do this? Well, they kind of lay it out there, and it's like, holy shit, I think they kind of didn't know what they were doing a lot here, and it's a lot less ambiguity. Like I know a lot of people are heavily critical of that movie and say, what the fuck, why? And then you watch this documentary, and they're laying things out that I, as a Star Wars fan, had not thought of before, and it really makes sense. It comes together. It's really well done. I picked up the 4K Skywalker Saga box set. It showed up last week, and I got a chance to watch it the other night, and it is really, really good. I highly recommend it. So that's really about it.
All right. Well, for me, I'll try to keep it short. Yes, I also finished Counterpunch Season 2 this week, which blew me away. It was awesome. And I also have been watching Little Fires Everywhere on Hulu, which is not a genre show, but is pretty cool nonetheless. Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington star in that. And it's just an intriguing look at class and race that I think is just fantastic, set in the 90s. I also have been watching Devs. I started watching Devs this week. The show it's on FX. I've been watching it on Hulu. It also stars amongst its actors Alison Pill, who played Jurati in Star Trek Picard, and I've loved her ever since House of Cards. She was in House of Cards, right? And then I came across by accident, really, in my suggestion list on Hulu, a movie called Time Freak, which came out in, I think, 2018. It stars Asa Butterfield, whom you may remember from Ender's Game. He's been in, God, I was just looking at his filmography. He's been in everything. He's a very talented actor. He's cute as a button. He was in Netflix's Sex Education, which is one of their highest rated programs. And even though it's sort of a lame kind of story, he really brings it to life, and I've really been enjoying it. It's about this physics genius who figures out how to travel back in time using acoustic sound, and he tries to win back the girlfriend who's broke up with him, and it actually kind of works. Anyway, I've enjoyed that.
Where is that on?
That's on
Charles?
Hulu. It's on Hulu. It's one of the Hulu films that they have. I think released digitally originally, and if it had a theatrical release, it was very limited. Went mostly digital at first, but he's really the best part of that film. I'm interested in watching Paradox, also on Hulu. And son, I have not gotten to Motherland Fort Salem, but it is on my list. I will be getting there soon. Yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Funny on Hulu and time travel, Future Man. It's stupid funny.
I have not been able to get into that. It's just too funny for time travel, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. Harumph! Anyway.
The DJ has spoken.
I've
The
not even
DJ
been able to sit down and watch Motherland myself. So.
Oh, good. So we can commiserate in that. Also, P.S., I don't know how Hulu pulled this off, but they're the ones airing Parasite, the South Korean film that won Best Picture this year, and it is worth a watch. So if you have Hulu, dive into that one. Get past those schmucks on Twitter who are like, I'm not going to watch anything with subtitles. Harumph, says I. It's a great
I
film.
watch
Okay.
that with subtitles all the
Yeah,
time.
I'll tell you what.
Fun.
You watch. Go watch Downfall, and then tell me you're not going to watch something with subtitles. That's all I'm saying.
I can tell you.
I only watched Downfall for one reason.
For the
Me
parodies,
too.
Of course. Yeah, exactly.
We all love Downfall for that
because
reason.
of Michael Cunningham. That's why.
I can tell you exactly how Hulu got a hold of this. This is something Disney has done for forever with Freeform. Disney acquired the airing rights for all of the Harry Potter stuff, even though they don't own any of the Harry Potter stuff. And Freeform did nothing but wall-to-wall Harry Potter weekends for like years.
And let's be clear, the broadcast rights to Harry Potter.
Right.
Other like HBO has had the rights to the movies as well, but network broadcast rights, definitely Freeform.
And now they're doing it with Twilight.
Ugh.
Yes, I noticed that the other day, and I was like, "Oh, you get vault."
Uh-oh. When you get Carlos speaking Yiddish.
It was bound to happen, folks. Bound to happen.
I think my favorite joke out of
Evil
that,
Twilight.
and Ross will appreciate this, is I have a friend who sometimes dips into Yiddish, and he said the other day, "Oi, Gewalt of Rivia."
Oh.
Well done. Well done.
Okay.
Also not a genre piece, but we've talked about Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul many times on this show. So I will say that if you have not seen the latest episode of Better Call Saul, The Bagman, it is one of the best episodes of television out of that oeuvre that I've ever seen. It's right up there with some of the best Breaking Bad episodes. It's basically Saul Goodman gets caught out in the desert with Mike Ehrmantraut and have to evade capture by the cartel. And it is hilarious and pathetic and wonderful and awesome and horrible all at the same time. It's worth a watch. Vince Gilligan himself said that it's one of the high points of their whole sort of franchise. Last thing I'm going to say about that is there's this weird story going around that there's going to be a season 6 of Breaking Bad. Have you all heard about this?
No.
Uh-oh.
That
I thought El
because
Camino was going to be the end of it.
I thought so
Really?
too. I don't think it's true though, but if you read into the article that I saw anyway, they're basically basing it on two things. Number one, that you don't see him actually die in the finale of season.
Hey, spoilers, man.
Well, you don't know who he is, so whatever. And the fact that Vince has in multiple interviews and stuff is sort of hedged around it, and that plus the fact that El Camino was sort of made completely on the down low. Nobody knew about the damn thing until basically just before it dropped, means that of course it must be in production. I don't know if that's true, and there's not any real evidence beyond this speculation, but personally I would kind of love it, because I thought Better Call Saul was going to be a misfire, and it has not been. It's been the opposite of misfire. So
it's these are some of those brilliant minds out there. In fact, the episode Bagman, I equate it to the episode Fly from Breaking Bad. If you guys remember that episode, they're trapped inside of the lab, which is them.
Oh, right.
And and Walt is obsessed with killing this fly that's buzzing around the lab for the entire episode. That's what Bagman reminded me of, because it's just a character piece. It's just two characters through the whole thing, and that's basically what Bagman is.
Yeah.
It's just Mike and Saul through the whole thing, and even more deeper insights in those characters. And that's exactly why Fly was so effective, because of how deep it got into the souls of those characters. Bagman's an outstanding episode.
It's an outstanding. So
I think it really is the best episode of the franchise, of that series so far, without question. It was great. Yep.
My
Yeah,
boss
it-
doesn't watch TV, and he's watching Better Call Saul.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that's
Wow,
the kind
I
of show
think
it is.
this isn't the last season. I think there's one more they're planning. Is that right?
I'm not. I wasn't sure about that. I was assuming there was because I don't. Where we're at right now, we're up to episode number 7 or 8
Yeah,
here.
7, I think.
So I don't see how they wrap this series up in 3 episodes. I would
me
imagine
either.
they got to give us another season.
Okay, I hope so.
It's safe to listen now.
It's safe to listen
Oh,
now.
it's been safe for a while, buddy. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah, we didn't go into too
I
much
talked a
detail,
bunch of shit about you while you had yours plugged out, just like
Yeah.
You're
We
very,
did.
you're a very patient person, Travis.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, you have 30 seconds to tell us about your Zoom background choice for the week.
Oh, the original
gonna
series Enterprise because it triggers people.
There you go. And Ross, tell us about yours.
It's the La Serena.
Of course, from Star Trek Picard.
Hey, La Serena.
I'm gonna turn to what are we watching? You guys skipped completely over me.
Oh my God, did we?
Yeah.
some reason I thought
Eyebrows
you
of
said something.
Doom.
Oh, Eyebrows
Oh,
of
yeah,
Doom, please. Please, jump in.
Patience. So, I already mentioned the kids shows. So he pretty much monopolizes the TV and been a bit busy with college work. So I've been able to watch too much. However, on the gaming front, offline, I've been going ham in Doom Eternal. It's a fantastic shooter. I'm loving every minute of it. And on the stream, Phoenix Point is my current obsession. And last night, I was up until about 4 a.m. It was
Jesus.
a 7-hour stream of turn-based combat against
Ooh.
mutant crabmen and all sorts of other evil giants and
That
gross
sounds like
crustaceans.
me getting nice.
They haunt my dreams too.
Cyborgs and many other terrible things in a world going insane slowly.
Let's
Oh,
also
that
not
sounds
forget
like my
the
night.
friendly fire.
Oh yeah. Tonight I streamed a bit before the show and I lost 2 soldiers to friendly fire.
I noticed that
From you?
Soji has been added to Star Trek Online.
She has?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
is it Star Trek Legends or Legacies? Something
Are,
like
are
that.
you thinking about timelines?
Might have been Timelines, but
'Cause
yeah,
I
she's
saw
in
the
there.
event that she's being added to timelines, but
Yeah, that
there's
must be the
been-
one I'm thinking of. That's
there's
the
been
one.
no
Timeline.
mention in Stowe yet. It
Pretty
takes a bit
much.
longer for that stuff to translate over.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
is that
I thought
It
it
was
was
season 2
Have they-
before we saw our first Discovery content in the game.
Have they started pivoting on the storyline with the Romulans and stuff?
Not yet.
Not yet.
They're probably if it deviates too much from their own story, they'll probably treat it like an alternate timeline.
Well, that's the way they're already treating it.
Yeah.
That-
Or
that-
they see it as butterfly effect from the timey-wimey shenanigans during the Iconian War.
timey-wimey.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's literally how they're treating it. It's like
Mhm.
we literally rebuilt Anarax's genocide machine from Voyager,
Yeah.
and
That was the secret weapon against the Iconians, since because of
And,
their weird ethereal nature, time travel literally destroys them.
so
As
we
well it should.
so
Right.
so we literally just blew up the asteroid that the Sutherland captain finds the Iconian stuff that Picard winds up going to Iconia in the first place. It's a convoluted mess.
It-
And is
it
the Sutherland
would have to be.
captain?
We have to fit
What's
it
his
in
name?
the
Yeah, they created an alternate timeline where Romulus was spared, but it was assimilated.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Yeah, so quick thinking later, reset the timeline, a bunch of weird stuff happens. They created the sphere builders by accident?
Oh,
Sorry.
really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, okay. That's a start.
Yeah, so
It was a
that,
fun
This is
mission.
why I don't play
Well,
that game.
look, in Carlos, in video game logic, that's a stretch. Is really that kind of sums up.
That sums it up, right?
Most video
I
game
had
logic,
this
which is
Star Trek
fine. I mean,
Online.
you know that going into it. That's
I
fine.
suppose so. I suppose so. Okay, well, we are way over time, but I think this was a great episode. Thanks, everyone, for your perspectives, opinions, thoughts, and in your case, Ross, dreams/nightmares. And join us again next week for our next episode of Super Geeks. I don't think we have another after show on until Discovery comes back, right, folks?
Whenever.
Yeah.
Whenever that is.
Oh, I forgot to mention one last thing, which is that Sci-Fi is re-airing in these dark times, is re-airing the entire run of Battlestar Galactica, as well as a special thing they're going to be doing. I forget on which date. They're having the original cast do a live read of the episode 33, which was
20th.
their
The first
April 20th.
episode of the series.
yeah, it was the
April
first
20th.
episode of the full series. Which
Wait,
I
wait,
think,
wait.
It's April 20th, Carlos.
Thank you,
Let's
Justin.
make sure we distinguish. Is this the original Battlestar Galactica?
No.
No.
The best
Reboot.
Battlestar Galactica.
Okay, so the
Oh.
remastered one. Okay.
Yes, this is the one that they did the miniseries then, and then started the series. And 33 was their first episode.
No, they
It was
currently-
the Battlestar Galactica inspired by Star Trek Voyager.
Voyager, exactly.
Except
Voyager
better.
Galactica.
Anyway, it was an awesome episode, and it was a well chosen one. It was like nail biting, edge of your seat, kind of.
33 is a good one.
Yeah.
You know, it occurred to me that because I looked at the air dates on this, that the miniseries when it aired a full year before the actual series came out, full year plus before.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they didn't know they were gonna make a series.
No, it was back.
Yeah.
Yeah, entirely.
Well, I don't think it was even that that far ahead. I think they were just blown away by the reception
The
to it.
response.
And they're like, okay, let's make a show out of this. And it took a year to come up to, to be developed. So
Yeah,
anyway,
but they
sorry
never-
that came out of nowhere, but I just saw that thing about.
Oh, good
33.
info.
I'll forgive you
Oh.
just this one time.
Sunday Night Movies is coming back on broadcast as well.
Oh, really?
Sunday or Saturday night movies?
I think it's Saturday night.
I saw Thursday night too.
Yeah, Indiana Jones is airing on ABC.
So many days of the week in these dark times.
It's so weird that all this stuff is streaming. People know this, right?
Yeah, there's a ton of
Yeah,
ton of
but
stuff.
different
streaming
times
out there.
call for different things. I mean, theaters might not even be coming back. They're saying
Oh, they
now.
will.
Theaters
but
will come back.
They will
Certain
totally
theater
come back.
chains may not.
may not.
It's-
But someone is always going to buy out those theaters and air these movies.
Right.
So it's Easter, and ABC's been showing all of the Charlton Heston Bible movies.
Oh God.
Let my people go.
The Ten Commandments was on last night.
I used to love watching that every year, actually.
Yeah.
So let it be written. So
No,
let it be
it's
done.
That is-
it's kind of like it's like a warm blanket during it's like watching the Christmas specials,
But after our earthquake here in Utah, I was looking for lamb's blood to cover it.
To paint
Or-
on that.
Of my cold dead hands. Wait, nope, wrong one.
And you
You know,
don't
I
and you
like to Old Testament.
and you don't get much better Yul Brenner than you do as him as Ramses.
It's
Oh,
true.
yes.
He's fantastic in that. He's fantastic in it. It's clearly his signature role.
And John Colicos. Core.
Yes.
Oh yes, you're right. Wow. Yeah, it really was. It was a great
or
movie.
Gaius Baltar, depending on your persuasion.
Oh, there
That
you
too,
go.
that too.
It all comes back to Battlestar Galactica. Okay. Well, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Real Super Geeks.
Life is like a